Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for the finals in Europe. My name is Blueberries, and with me today, as usual, Don John. So we have great matches coming up. The third place match before we go into the finals. Of course, we have our talented casters with us, Action Jackson and Vedius, as well as our analyst Rome. So welcome everyone here to the show. And let's take a quick look at our first matchup of the night. There we go. This is what we will see today, ladies and gentlemen. We have, first of all, the third place match, Snow Avalanche versus Rebel Tiger, followed by the grand finals, Team Secret versus Snow Tsunami. And yeah, just go ahead.
And afterwards, we will not stop. We will directly jump into the North American finals with starting Nemesis Hydra versus Kinetic. Super performance from both teams so far. That's the third place decider match, also very important, but we will hear lots more about this, how important those third matches are actually, in just a bit from our just mentioned caster, talent, and analysts. And then obviously we'll see Alliance versus Gangsters. Personally looking really much forward to see this. The Gangsters, just the squad is playing the last time together in a competitive match, which means Kaldamik will go over to Alliance. But more on that later on. Just to give a short insight, I'm very hyped for both regions, for both finals. And before we jump actually in our first matchup of the night, we jump back to the studio.
Yes, got some news to share. So if you want to play in VGL in the second qualifier, the application is open, so directly head to vaingloryleague.com. On the main page you can see the application both for Europe and North America. The application for South America is closed. We are going to South America with our talented guy God's Eye, who will host the show in Brazil. And yeah, I think that will be great. So we will have more VGL madness coming up. Apply now for the second qualifier. It is possible to make it from the second qualifier straight to the live championships, and this is what it's all about. Right. 25,000 US dollars as a prize pool for the live championships. Teams are collecting points. So we have the third match, and I would like to jump into the overview from the third match, and together with our casters, Action Jackson here, coming into that third match. Jackson, what do you think, like Snow Avalanche versus Rebel Tiger? Who is your personal favorite, and why is that?
I think this is going to be a particularly interesting match, actually, because both of these teams have some very strong points, but then also some weaker ones, I think. If we're looking at the strong points, though, I think it's really worth talking about the laning that was coming out. Or sorry, the weak points is worth talking about the laning that came out yesterday from Snow. We really saw a bit of Arc Lost in Space from Rebel Tiger is what I'm trying to talk about here. We saw him really struggling up against PT Lamb yesterday in the second two games of that series, and I'm curious to see how he's going to perform in this next game up against Snow Avalanche's laner. I think it's going to be a very tough matchup for him especially, but there were rays of hope, I think, especially in the jungle.
Alright, so that being said, I would actually get Vedius on the board. Welcome to the VGL finals, of course. Vedius, my question to you, would you agree by just looking at the two teams, or would you agree to your co-caster Action Jackson here? And who is your personal favorite coming into that match?
I do agree with him in a lot of respects. I think that Arc Lost yesterday showed some weaknesses. He was overextending quite a lot. He was getting caught out. And he, in the first game against Snow Tsunami, was really one of the big carries of Rebel Tigers. So his performance today will largely dictate the series. But I think just coming into it, it will be Snow Avalanche that have the advantage. Because watching them play against Team Secret yesterday, they picked a composition that really worked for them, and they knew exactly how to execute it, and their teamwork was just so impressive compared to what we've seen from them in the past. So I think they will learn from their mistakes, and they're going to make Rebel Tigers' life very difficult in this third place match.
Thank you for the insight from your side, Vedius. And now I actually want to ask the history teacher, or also the bright mind Rome, about a deeper insight on both teams. What can we predict? What are we going to see in this third place match? Just give us all the insight, intel, whatever you have. Shoot it at us.
Well, looking at both of these teams, we actually do see like a very similar style of play. In terms of they always end up getting their draft picks, and where they do land those the comfort picks, and based around the heroes that they're so very familiar with. Especially looking at Arc Lost in Space, although that second game yesterday he did fall off and he didn't have that immense pressure that he did have in the first. As long as he's able to lock down this Vox and or Celeste, I think he does have that carry potential. Looking at the setups coming out of Green Hornet and Moles in that jungle, always making sure that the afterburns are working, making sure that they're able to peel for him with all the different types of like kit capabilities. But when you're also looking at the Snow Avalanche team, I think these guys have always been able to pick up compositions based on like what they're very comfortable with. And currently that is Black Feather and Sky. And as long as they're able to get one of these two, they do have that hard carry potential. And I think both of these teams will come into this fight like clashing a lot, making sure like all those early position plays are being like held responsible for how their outcome will be.
All right, so your final prediction, if we put you now on the spot and say you have to choose the third place, and I mean the third place is super important, and when we look at the points, we actually see that if you're getting placed third in this first qualifier, you not theoretically, but you made it already to the live championships just by the points. So this matchup is super important for both teams. For Snow, it can be here just the enter card to be present with two teams at the live championships at the Gfinity Arena in London, which is, by the way, in March from 18th to 20th. And if you want to get tickets, just type in the chat !tickets. And Rome, again, coming back to you and the question, if we put you now on the spot, who is going to make it here?
Mechanically wise, both of these teams are excellent, and they all have very strong heroes played, especially in that lane as a lane carry. I would actually have to side with the team of Rebel Tiger here, just because I do find their synergy and their communication, their coordination to be spot on. I think they'll come out with this. And we have to notice that both of these teams gave the finalist teams one single loss in their matches yesterday.
All right. So, looking at this matchup, I am super hyped for this. Actually, my thought is that we just get this party started as soon as possible. We are going to invite the teams. We are executing the draft and the ban, which will be, of course, again, the key point. And once again, I can't wait for 1.14, where the draft is officially coming into Vainglory. And I think this is just crazy.
So, looking at both teams, I know we talked a little bit about both of them. I would like you guys, all of you, Vedius, Action Jackson, Rome, and also you, Blueberries, pick your name. What do you think, who's the biggest playmaker for Team Avalanche and for the other side, Rebel Tiger? Who do you think will be the person on the team, if they win it, who's carrying this thing? Wow. Who's maybe calling the shots, who's maybe the dominant jungler, laner, or we also saw, obviously, Roamers just saying lost by Tough or Flash X, what you can pull out of their own position.
Yeah.
So feel free, give me some insight. I'm very interested to see some rootings here.
So let me start right away. I personally think Araxi is a super strong player from Team Snow. I love his playstyle. I think he can be the key person, but then together, of course, it depends on HF Guy. HF Guy, we have seen great performance from him across the board. Well, we have seen also, I mean, he's a super young player. Some, maybe caused you some inexperience whatsoever, a little bit of a mispositioning, and that can turn the whole team fight, of course, towards Rebel Tigers. But in the end, I think the comp Araxi HF guy, especially here with the focus from the positioning on Araxi. I think that guy will take the win for Snow Avalanche. But that is just my personal opinion, and so I will pass on this ball to no one else than Action Jackson, asking him, maybe he agrees or maybe he disagrees, and if he does, then please let us know why.
All right, so first things first, having a look at Avalanche. You mentioned Araxi, and I will give it to you. He is a very, very strong laner, and I think in this matchup especially, he's going to be an important part of that. But I actually think that Bash is the guy that I really want to talk about. He had, until yesterday, an 11.6 kill-death assist ratio. Now, obviously, yesterday, they did lose their best of 3, so it fell substantially down to 4-1. But even still, that's a very impressive ratio, and he's involved in so many of the exchanges that Avalanche set up and try and go for. So I think Bash is going to be a big playmaker for the side of Avalanche. You can definitely see it reflected in the stats, too. Now, on the side of Rebel Tiger, I'm going to go a bit of a different way with this, and it's sort of harking back to what I said previously. I think it's going to be down to Arc Lost in Space. When he's having good games, for example, every time he's played Celeste, he makes so much happen for his team. He's really, I think, a key component of what they can bring to the table. But when he's playing poorly, I haven't really seen Green Hornet or their other players step it up. Moles, I don't think they have necessarily quite the same capability to dominate a game that he does when he's on form. So I think it's really going to be about whether Arc Lost in Space shows up today, and off the back of yesterday, he might be struggling with his mentality, or he might be really fired up. So it's hard to say for sure. I feel like Avalanche have the edge here, but it is definitely going to be in big part up to Arc Lost in Space to show up.
Well, I'm gonna let Vidius handle this one first, and then I'll finish it off because I do think my thoughts are a little bit far-fetched from what's been coming out so far.
All right, so the people that I want to mention, right, is specifically Bash. We've already heard a little bit about him from Action Jackson, but the reason I want to talk about him is because I think Arden is going to be absolutely massive in this series. We saw how contested it was yesterday, and having a look at the teams and the players that have played up to this point, Rebel Tigers, their row moles doesn't play Arden. He's only played Finn and Catherine throughout this tournament, whereas the Bash has had 4 games of Arden already. So the fact that Rebel Tigers haven't put much value on this Arden pick, I think could be a weakness, and I think that pick alone will be a large reason as to why Snow will come out ahead in the series.
Okay, Rome, it's your turn. Give us the full insight, and obviously thank you very much, Vedius, on your thoughts there.
Coming to this, especially when we're looking at competitive play, we're looking at how the format is in terms of this is a draft pick, and I would have to focus for everybody to pay attention to what Moles does this game. We have seen him play a lot of Finn, we have seen him play a lot of Catherine. There is a lot of times where this Arden just doesn't make it to their possession during the drafting phase, and I think because he's so able to build around more passive skill and compositions, and being as a roamer, he will be the one to initiate the fights. He will be the one to call the fights. I think with him taking that charge for the Rebel Tiger team, that they probably will come out the lead of this game.
Okay, thank you very much. Closing this round off, we are ready to start the bans and picks for Snow Avalanche versus Rebel Tigers. That is the Vainglory League first winter qualifier. Third place decider match. Whoever is going to win this best of 3 will have a spot in the Live Championships end of March in the Gfinity Arena in London.
Alright, there we go. We have the first bans coming into that, and we will see actually Snow Avalanche going into the ban here and the draft mode with the Catherine ban, which is super important. We have heard Rome talking about that Catherine. On the other hand side, we do see an Adagio ban. So Adagio banned frequently also yesterday. What does that mean here coming into this draft with a Catherine and Adagio ban?
Like with the Adagio ban, it's how you look at him in terms of like a flex pick. And we do know like a lot of these teams, especially over in the EU server, they like to run double roamers and making sure that they're banking everything that they can onto that hyper carry. And with these two roaming bans coming in, I do think that as long as the side of Rebel Tiger is able to secure Arden, if the Snow team doesn't, that they do have an advantage.
So coming into the draft, Snow Avalanche, they are going actually for that Sky pick. And my question, Action Jackson Sky, super strong, Crystal, mostly well in the jungle, but often also in lane. Is that a good start for Snow Avalanche? Can we call it like that? But the question is, at least Blackfeather, Kestrel, all that kind of stuff open now for Rebel Tiger. So what do you think about that opener here with the Sky?
I think it's actually a pretty good one. It's been a highly contested pick throughout the history of the tournament so far, and the people who have made it really work have really, really made it work. I mean, Leon, I know he's not in this series. That actually makes his performance even more impressive. If you head over to Fame Glory and look at the top 10 kills for the European VGL, he's still number one, even though he hasn't played in the last round of games.
Yep.
A large part of that is based off of his earlier Sky performance. Similarly, PT Lamb, who's currently second on the top 10 kills list, also has played Sky numerous times to great effect, and it's worth noting that he is actually on Snow Tsunami. So maybe this is something that Snow has been sharing amongst themselves and looking into. I think Sky makes a lot of sense here. I think picking it up early makes a lot of sense, and I'm excited to see if they can make it work with the same level of success that we've seen previously.
Alright, and that being said, I was mentioning leaving that Blackfeather open, and there we go. Rebel Tiger going instantly for that Blackfeather, and together with Finn. So that is just super interesting. Vedius, you are a huge fan of Finn, Team Secret, the big hooks actually. Do you think Rebel Tiger has the same idea here?
Yeah, I think the pick potential that Finn provides can be very valuable, and if anybody is slightly out of position, if you just really want to focus down a single target, then Finn can offer so much of that. Followed it up by an overdriven quitable means that he provides so much crowd control. I think it's a fantastic pick, and I'm looking forward to seeing how well other teams make it work, especially seeing as I do believe that it will be it's going to be Bash on that Finn pick. So seeing how he makes it work up against Moles, who's a bit of a Finn expert, I think we could argue, will be an interesting matchup to see.
Yeah, so we slightly apologize here for the mispick on the screen. It is Arden and Vox going here for the opener of Rebel Tiger. So on the other side, it is Blackfeather and Finn for Snow Avalanche. And then we can talk and continue to talk a little bit about that comp Sky, Finn and Blackfeather. So my question to Rome, that comp, I know we have seen Team Secret synergy with, Finn, Adagio, and So, which is just insane. But can this comp work as well? That good?
Definitely. With them being able to secure down a Sky, a Blackfeather, and a Finn, it will all depend on how well this Sky is able to make that early game pressure. As long as they get to that late game, this is where the combo of Blackfeather and Finn come into play, and this is where he's almost unbeatable. With the other team being able to pick up that Vox, we can be sure like his positioning is always going to be on point. As long as he's standing in the back, making sure that he doesn't take all the aggression and get bursted down, I think he should be, as long as he's able to get those items, he should be able to take out the enemy team.
Alright, last but not least, Rebel Tiger, they're going for the Castrol pick. Action Jackson Castrol, most likely seen in the jungle. Weapon damage facing here, we don't know yet. Sky Blackfeather together with Finn. Well, what do you think about that? Is it, can Castrol show the full potential here, especially early game?
I certainly think so. I think it sort of patches up a little bit of a rough spot that you might have with the Blackfeather. Due to the fact that he takes a while to really come into his own, whereas Castrol in the early game, those glimmer shots, not glitter shots, are very potent, and that can help you out getting through that stage of the game. And then on top of that, I think the fact that it's with the Finn is interesting. There's a lot of damage in that composition, and there's a lot of threat there. You have to worry about the Kestrel and the Blackfeather, and I can't think of a better person to complement those two than a Finn to just get in the way of you killing the targets that you want. So I think the Kestrel makes sense in the lineup. It offers a lot there. And the only thing that I'm slightly concerned about is that sort of historically, we've seen maybe a bit of underperformance on Kestrel so far, at least in the last few rounds of the tournament.
Alright, that being said, we will jump on the fold in just a second.
All right, well, we are going to be getting on to the fold, guys. Very excited for this third, fourth place match. My name's Action Jackson, and I got Vedius with me. Vedius, this is the first game of the final night for this qualifier. It's been a long road to this point. We've seen a lot from these teams. How are you feeling moving into this final game?
Well, I'm excited to see how things play out, because Snow Avalanche and Rebel Tigers yesterday, in both of their game ones, looked very, very confident. They were playing their compositions perfectly, their execution was on point, their teamwork was phenomenal. And the question is, which team is really going to show up today? Because in the second game, things fell apart for both of these teams in their semi-final matches. So hopefully they've collected themselves. Hopefully they've realized the issues that they dealt with yesterday. And now coming into this third place match, they can secure themselves that third place spot and guarantee a spot in the live championships later on in March.
That is the prize that everyone has their eye on, that is for sure. I can't wait for the next live championships. The last ones that you and I attended were in Santa Ana, and it was a great deal of fun. Right now, though, Lore, he is dreaming about those finals as well, getting overextended in lane, and is going to go down. Avalanche finding themselves the first blood in the third, fourth place match.
So Lore's over-aggression got punished there quite heavily by Snow Avalanche. Notice how Lore just overextended a little bit too much to land those glimmer shots, and that put him in a position to set up for Bash and Araxi to collapse down and secure themselves that first blood. So great start for Snow Avalanche. The momentum right now going in their favor.
Absolutely, and look at this. Polite Company dragging Lore in yet again in the jungle. You can see the pressure really coming out from Avalanche. HF Guy does need to be careful, but he's doing a decent job in a 1 versus 2 right now.
Certainly is, and something that I do want to quickly address is I talked about how Moles hasn't actually played Arden yet in this tournament, and now he's playing it. He was a big fan of the Finn and the Catherine, whereas Bash was the guy that was pretty much always running that Arden, and both of these roamers have now swapped, so it's nice to see that they still have that versatility available.
Araxi.
But Araxi, no, he's down some trouble.
Glimmer shots coming through. Lore gonna find himself that one. Very nice job by the side of Rebel Tigers to find some kind of a return for the aggression early on from Snow, but now we've got HF Guy rotating down. Active camo does not last very long yet, and the Ford Barrage finds the kill. Bash nearly going down here, doesn't get the shield off Polite Company. That could be bad for HF Guy as well. Ford Barrage, oh, he's not gonna find it before going down. Araxi just getting back from base in time to get the kill. It's 3 for 3 right now.
So much aggression in the early game from both these teams. You heard Rome talking about on the desk. These teams love to play aggressively during the early game, particularly this duo pair that we saw yesterday, Moles and Lore, just love to work together as a team and roam up into the jungle. Obviously yesterday we did have Green Hornet, but Lore still fills that same role that Green Hornet typically does. They love to play aggressively, they love to move up, and when you have that Kestrel, you want to take advantage of the strong early game that you have, but their over-aggression got punished a little bit too much by HF Guy having a nice rotation down into the jungle. So great stuff from both teams, equalizing the score 3 to 3.
Very nice work by both teams so far in the early game. Lots of aggression, which is what I love to see. I'm Action Jackson for a reason. But who's going to come out ahead in that aggression? I feel like the Finn and the Black Feather, you know, they should be taking a while to really ramp up. But at the moment, the fact that they've managed to stay even in these fights is actually quite impressive to me. Whoa, HF guy. Wow, getting melted there. This is exactly what I was talking about. The comp from Avalanche just struggling, or you would expect to struggle a little bit early on here.
Well, they just didn't really respect the damage from Arc Lost. Typically, a Sky would come out ahead in that 1 versus 1 scenario, but the fact that Moles was there to provide the support with the Vanguard, with the Blood for Blood, meant that Arc Lost had enough in his kit to take down that kill onto HF Guy, and that overextension seems to be quite common between the two teams. We talked about Arc Lost really being the carry for Rebel Tigers, but so far in this early game, he's having a great start.
He is, absolutely, and I'm curious to see if he can keep it up, though. We have seen good starts quickly and badly for several teams in the European side of the VGL, at the very least. Look at the continued aggression coming out of Tigers, too. They're actually starting off the gold mine right now, and I feel like, given the position of Avalanche, they don't have a chance to stop this.
No, they don't. The Rebel Tigers straight up had the better positioning right there, and you could even see Law move up aggressively to make sure that there was nobody from Snow Avalanche that would look to try and contest that gold miner. So that's going to be a great early objective picked up for them. Their goal now is to try and maintain that control, because when Araxi gets a couple of items, he's going to be a big threat as Snow Avalanche trying to make plays, but the vision control that has been coming out from Rebel Tigers in this early game has been pretty solid.
They've been doing a great job of getting these deep scout traps down in slightly unusual positions where you wouldn't think to go clear them out necessarily, and it's allowed for them to make a lot of these rotations that we've been talking about, these picks that they've been finding. I like that Bash has kind of changed focus to staying in lane and helping out HF Guy. Look at the damage as well. Quibble chunking out Arc Lost in space, but they can't quite get through Moles. Now with Lore coming up, Avalanche is going to have to be a bit more careful. Maybe back up. One shot, one kill blocked by Bash. Wouldn't quite have landed onto Araxi anyway, though.
That was very smart from Moles to realize that the pressure was going to be onto Arc Lost. And this is what I was talking about when I said teams learning from their mistakes from yesterday, because so much pressure was put onto Arc Lost. It was gank after gank after gank. And now what Moles has decided to do is he's like, right, I'm going to cover them. And he's trying to cover Law right now.
Bash actually making an aggressive play, not realizing that Arc Lost in space had come back so quickly. Does take a huge amount of damage. Araxi waiting in the wings as well, doing the sensible thing and not face-checking the bush. Everyone should take a leaf out of his book. Absolutely. When you're playing in ranked, you do not want to be face-checking these bushes. Right now, though, with the rotation away from the lane from Rebel Tigers, HF Guy looking to set something up onto Lore, Bash leading the charge. But they're being very careful not to bite off more than they can chew.
No, they certainly are. They're playing very smart. Rebel Tigers realize that they're not quite at a point where they could win a straight-up 3 versus 3, because they realize that HF Guy is going to be doing quite a lot of damage. But Arc Lost has completed that alternating turret right now, and he's actually 20 CS ahead of HF Guy. So really having a great start to the lane, and HF Guy maybe not as strong in the lane compared to Araxi. Araxi was typically the guy that we saw yesterday going up in that lane, and he put a lot of pressure down onto his lane opponents. But right now, Arc Lost really seems to be the dominant carry out of the two laners, and this is what we were talking about. Rebel Tigers need to rely on Arc Lost and his mechanical prowess to bring them out ahead, and so far, this is going exactly the way that Rebel Tigers want their early game to go.
I have to say, it's an interesting decision, I think, from Avalanche to swap up, a decent formula. Obviously, they didn't manage to make it into the finals, and maybe that's the impetus for the change, but you've got to be careful about doing that. One of the reasons you frequently see players play one position all the time is so that they can master it, and I feel like HF Guy is lacking a little bit of the experience maybe that Araxi had. Rebel Tigers, though, they are doing a great job of applying pressure, and you can't discount that. Looking for kills as frequently as they can.
They certainly are. The rotations from both teams are pretty rapid, always roaming around the map looking for these plays, but a lot of time has been spent up in the lane. Both teams looking for those sort of engages to get them that little bit of an extra lead that will give them the momentum that they need to take control of the game. But have a look at the gold miner. It's about to be stacked out. It looks like Rebel Tigers realize this, and so they're posturing around it. They're getting some vision down. You can see that minion candy is available for moles if Snow Avalanche decide to contest it, and the gauntlet gets thrown out.
It does get thrown out, and there's no reflex blocks on the important targets yet for Avalanche. That said, Death from Above doing a great job of zoning them out. For now, one shot, one kill lands onto the back line, but now Araxi's here. Bash, very low health, but Lore actually using his auto attacks there stopped him from reloading. Couldn't find that final glimmer shot onto Bash.
So this vision we were talking about from Rebel Tigers was so good because it spotted out Araxi not being with his team. So the gauntlet came out from Moles to capitalize on Bastion and HF Guy being in a 2 versus 1. The big thing that resulted in HF Guy escaping with his life was that phenomenal Death from Above that acted as a beautiful disengage to allowing him to escape. They did end up losing the turret though, so I think Rebel Tigers are going to be pretty happy as Bastion looks for another fight.
Bash is trying to find something here. They know Gauntlet, for example, is not available from Moles, but the damage out of Lore is obscene right now. Finds himself the first kill, finds the second kill for Arc lost in space. And at the moment, Rebel Tigers snowballing through snow.
They certainly are. Lore demonstrating his prowess on this Kestrel with the early Sorrow Blade. It's very difficult for a Blackfeather to really win in a 1 versus 1 in that scenario. So a little bit of poor decision-making from Araxi. He shouldn't have tried to go for that 1v1, but Moles also with a fantastic Vanguard, providing that support for Lore to get that 1 versus 1 kill was fantastic. So Rebel Tigers coming out ahead in that exchange, going to pick up some extra items, and right now they really do feel like they're in control of this early game.
They definitely are, sitting at over a 4,000 gold lead currently at 10 minutes. With the 3-kill edge as well. That's a very healthy lead for this early stage in the game. But one thing that I think is worth noting, and we joke about it frequently, about this sort of EU comeback syndrome. But something I've noticed, especially as we've got later into the tournament, is that these comebacks happen a lot more frequently when you have Finn on your team. Because later on in the game, when he has a super low cooldown on that Forced Accord, he can make so many plays.
He certainly can. That Force Accord is great for catching targets out, but it relies quite heavily on your vision control, and we have talked a fair amount about it with regards to Rebel Tigers, but not very much from Snow Avalanche because their scout traps just aren't there. They're not putting that much emphasis on trying to control their half of the jungle, and they haven't really been looking for any sort of aggressive plays. So this vision control is going to be very important if Snow Avalanche want to look to make a comeback.
Oh, that's the gauntlet. Bash immediately taking a lot of damage here. He's going to try and get away. Araxi running point at the moment. You don't really want your Blackfeather as the frontline Moles actually forced into the turret range by that Accord. The heal not there. 1 shot, 1 kill actually lands on the back line as well. And that's going to be 2 quick pickups for the side of Tigers. They're looking for the turret.
Great fight from Rebel Tigers, finding the targets that they need. Even though Bastion landed a beautiful Forced Accord onto the low health target of Moles, it did not matter because this time Rebel Tigers executed that fight perfectly. Lore and Arcloss playing around the front line of Moles just executed beautifully. I'm sort of lost for words for how well they're playing these fights because with the lead that they had, this isn't the same team that we saw from yesterday. Replacing Green Hornet for Lore seems to have changed the mentality of the team, and now they seem way more confident. They seem to be so much more aggressive, and the way that they make these plays is just so much more crisp and coordinated that Rebel Tigers seem like a completely different team to yesterday.
It really excites me seeing this kind of team play where you actually utilize your subs appropriately. The first time I think we've really seen it be very effective was actually in the final series of the NA Championship with Marto. We brought it up then, but since then we've seen more and more teams utilizing the subs, and it's like you say, Lore has really stepped up here and filled the shoes of Green Hornet in a big way. It's changed up the dynamic, and maybe, the effects of it are so widespread and so wide-ranging. For example, let's say Avalanche prepped thinking that Green Hornet would play. Well, they picked away the Blackfeather, but Lore might not play it. Maybe he's a Kestrel guy. These are all things that aren't very tangible, but definitely have an impact on the game.
I think it also relieves some of the pressure from Arclost, because yesterday we weren't talking about Green Hornet very much. It was all about Arclost and how well he can carry. But now with Lore on the lineup, he seems to be a secondary carry, a second threat that Rebel Tigers can rely on. And taking that pressure off of Arclost, I think that just makes his gameplay a little bit cleaner, a little bit safer. And given that he hasn't died yet this game, I think that the stats support that.
They absolutely do. Something that happened whilst you're doing that breakdown, Forced Accord got used on nothing. 57-second cooldown on that, even with the slight reduction you get. So not a great situation to be in for Snow. That's basically the only way they can be proactive right now, is if they land one of those engagements with the Forced Accord. That's just bought time for the Tigers to roam around the jungle, steal away all the camps, wait for this Kraken to spawn, and maybe take that to close out the game a bit later on.
So, coming into these later game fights, Arclost will be a larger threat than Kestrel will, because she's going to go for this weapon power build. It is going to fall off over time, and we are reaching the point where Blackfeather is now going to start becoming a massive threat. So, keep an eye on these fights for the Arclost versus Araxi matchup, because Araxi's going to be looking to get onto the backline. He wants to shut down that Vox as quickly as possible so that he can't get that fight, the damage down. Whereas what Bash is going to try and do is keep Lore preoccupied. As the hook comes out,
that Forced Accord way better than the last one, but look at Lore. He doesn't even need to be near you to do damage. That's one kill. Moles is in a tough spot, though, having to gauntlet out of the base. Ends up being a 1-for-1 trade so far. HF guy, why are you going back in? Massive damage coming out of Lore. He's weapon power. It's the first portion of that shot that matters.
It certainly is, and HF guy overextending a little bit too much to try and keep that turret alive, ends up sacrificing his life along with the turret anyway. But you have to give mad props to Bash. He did go for Arclost in space by throwing out that hook and dragging him in, but he dragged him in with moles. So thanks to the support that the Vanguard provided along with the Fountain of Renewal, they couldn't shut down Arclost fast enough. And the other key thing about that fight was that Lore wasn't preoccupied. So he was free to do so much damage from behind the wall. He was left to his own devices, and that resulted in Rebel Tigers coming out in a 2-for-1, as Araxi may be looking for another fight right now.
They are trying to get onto Lore, but Vanguard buys him some time. Forced Accord onto 3, but that just drags them right onto Araxi. The damage is huge out of Kestrel right now. Lore, one shot, one kill, finds the second one, and that's going to be an ace coming through for the Tigers. They've got Kraken on the board here. They have a lot of options.
This is the problem for Snow Avalanche. Right now, they're trying to shut down Arclost, but they're also not putting any emphasis at all onto Lore, so he's just free to get so much damage down with his positioning, and that is resulting in Rebel Tigers consistently coming out ahead in these engagements. They are executing these fights perfectly, but it's also a big misplay from Snow Avalanche, unable to get the proper target focus down, and you still just have to give credit to how well Lore is playing. This guy, he wasn't there yesterday in their semi-final match, but coming in today, he has shown the team, yes, I realize how important coming out ahead in this third place match is. Yes, I realize how much pressure there is on this match, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to use that pressure. It's going to fuel me, and I'm going to carry this game. And mad props to him for doing such a great job in this game so far.
I have to agree with you, and something that I want to mention is how radically different his Kestrel play has been to the Kestrel play of many people so far in the tournament. Moles does get forced in, but can just Vanguard out, actually speeding up Lore for some aggressive poke there. The Kraken is going to knock on the base of Avalanche right now, and it's a tough spot for them to be in. Can they defend this Death Ball coming in? Lots of damage coming out, death from above. Lore is on the backline, though, against Araxi. He's trying to find the kill, does actually get it, but meanwhile the Kraken is doing a lot of work. Arc lost in space, does find one more on the backside, trying to get Araxi now. No turret helping out this fight. He's on the wrong side of the Vein Crystal. That's a second kill. Bash goes down. The turret falls. Kraken is still very healthy. I don't see a way for Avalanche to come back in this game. They're going to have to do it in the rest of the series. First game going the way of Rebel Tigers.
Fantastic game from them. Really impressed with how well they've adapted since yesterday. A clean 18-minute victory going heavily in their favor, and I feel like I didn't see a moment of weakness in that entire game. Phenomenal stuff from Rebel Tigers, looking strong in this third place match.
All right, let's bring Rome on and discuss this a little bit more because there's a lot to break down here. Rome, what happened there that just allowed for the snowball to go crazy from Rebel Tigers? It felt like they just had an edge and they pushed it, and there was nothing Avalanche could do.
Well, looking at the side of Snow Avalanches, their jungle, although they do have a Sky, that Finn is not really effective in that early game. And with the side of Rebel Tiger, we saw how massive head start that Arc Lost in Space did have. On that Vox, his CS was unbelievably higher than the other laner. So as the game started to transition on, we saw that Kestrel. He was able to use that camo every time that Finn did get a hook off, but because Finn is like a very slow and a very tanky melee roamer, and he's playing against two range carries, which makes it actually very hard for them. As long as Rebel Tiger was able to keep their positioning pretty far apart, they eventually they had the advantage coming into every team fight.
All right, that's interesting. I mean, Vedius, something I would noticed a little bit is obviously right at the beginning of that game, we actually saw some very aggressive plays out of Avalanche that didn't go poorly. You know, they were actually able to find some advantages from those. Do you think maybe it just got into their head that they could fight early when compositionally they couldn't?
Yeah, I do feel overconfidence may have overcome them right there. They were coming out equal, or at least a little bit ahead in the exchanges, because Rebel Tigers tried to make these very early aggressive jungle invades that were backfiring, and because Snow Avalanche were able to capitalize off of that, they felt like, oh, we can just keep fighting against this very aggressive Rebel Tigers lineup. But it got to a point where, as Rome was saying, this Finn just didn't have that much of an impact, and again, this Arden was doing a huge amount of work, which is why I feel like this Arden should be more of a priority in this series.
All right, well, my final question to you, and it's going to be directed at Rome this time. Moving forward into the next game, what needs to change? Is it just the pick and ban phase? Do they need to sort of check themselves a little bit before wrecking themselves with these early game exchanges? How does Avalanche come back into the series? Because if they lose one more, this is only a best of 3, they will be going home in 4th place.
Overall, Snow Avalanche did have a very strong composition last game, but I think because they failed to use that Sky and jump to that backline aiming down that Vox, their positioning beforehand was a little bit off. What they have to do is actually try and avoid this Kestrel, because with the poke damage coming out, once the fight actually starts, you're at such a low level of health left, where if you were to jump in, if you were to dive, Arden would just use that Vanguard, throw down the gauntlet, and Vox would destroy the entire team. And that's exactly what happened last game. Going to this next match, they have to make sure that once they go through with a plan, they have to execute it. They have to jump in all as 3, and as long as they're able to wait out certain skills, especially if the other team does have a Kestrel again, then they should be fine. They can't be taking that stuff head on.
All right, well, we're about to get into the pick and bans of the second game. There's obviously a lot of stuff that needs to be considered by both of these teams. Blueberries and Don John, I'm going to pass it back to you guys.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very, very interesting game. Super well played here from Rebel Tiger. I have a question which I would like to ask actually our analyst Rome. You know, Snow came into this draft, they banned Catherine, then the other team banned Adagio. So basically, you should, personally, is my opinion, I would go for that Arden pick, but they did not. They went for Sky, leaving Arden open, so they were forced to either going for that Finn or Fortress, which is apparently not a lot seen in this meta actually. Do you agree that this draft was not ideal for Snow, or do I just have a different point of view here?
No, what you said is totally correct. And when I did see that Catherine ban coming out of the Snow team originally, I thought that they would first pick this Arden. But looking at the other team, they probably thought ahead of time. And seeing as Lore's on the other team and he does play a lot of Sky, they probably try and opt out, try and ban away his Sky and secure one for their own. Although Sky is very strong and very well played amongst the high tier players, in my opinion, I would have actually tried and secure that Arden and build a composition around that.
And I would suggest throwing it into the ban and pick phase, because we do have the first bans coming up from Rebel Tiger, so we can take a look and see if they are listening to what Rome is telling them to do. We do see the first ban from Rebel Tiger. It is Catherine.
The way they're approaching this again is Catherine is such a great ban in the first, especially if you are going first. It gives you opportunity to put the pressure on the second team that's picking, and then trying to be able to secure an advantage in the early game.
Alright, Kestrel is banned here on the other side, and we do see the first pick, which is not Arden from Rebel Tiger, so theoretically they left him now open for Snow Avalanche, because they are going for that Vox pick. Personally, I would agree with the Vox pick, because I think it was just super well played. He is super strong, especially late game. Action Jackson, do you think, like, if they go for an aggressive laner, like maybe a Ringo or something else, that they put the pressure on the lane, on the strong Rebel Tiger Vox player here?
I think that might actually be quite a viable strategy, and maybe they could complement that later on with some kind of an early game composition, because as I said before, they actually did have some encouraging plays in the early game, but they were unable to move forward with that kind of style of play because their composition didn't support it. So yeah, I would agree with that. I think something like a Ringo could work here.
Alright, they are going to continue with a Sky and an Arden. So, as already said, they now took advantage here of the free left Arden. They still feel super comfortable with the Sky. Unlikely was not that snowballing as good as it could be in the first match. But now, I think it could have a different outcome with that Arden. Would you agree, Rome?
Yeah, with an Arden, Sky is able to actually dive deep in, and he knows he has that kind of support in terms of that Vanguard coming in to help him. But with the other team, they secured their Vox as a first pick. They have so many options for their second and third. They could run a flex pick in Adagio. They could put up a Glaive, which Green Hornet has been playing so well. As long as he's able to use that afterburn and make sure that he's peeling away for this Vox, he will do so much damage.
Alright, so we will see. The draft has not been done yet for Rebel Tiger. Glaive, yeah, we know that he is strong once he gets going. Vedius, what do you think? Like, would you agree to that Glaive pick here? Or would you suggest Rebel Tiger to get something else? If so, what?
I think Rebel Tigers could just stick to... well, in terms of changing their strategy, if they want to go for something more aggressive, maybe we could see something like a Koshka. We've seen it work quite well in the past. I believe we saw Snow Tsunami actually bringing out yesterday, and it worked to some great effect. So it's... I think something that aggressive in the early game, if that's the sort of composition they want to look for, could be a great viable pick for them.
Alright, so they're going a different way. It is Finn and Blackfeather. So this time, Finn on Rebel Tiger's side, which is super interesting, together with that Blackfeather. So let's see, two of those heroes changed here the team. And Adagio will be on the side from Snow Avalanche. So looking at the roster while we jump into the game, Vox, Finn and Blackfeather for Rebel Tiger versus Adagio, Arden and Sky for Snow Avalanche. What can we expect here coming into that second match, Rome?
With the side of Rebel Tiger picking out a more passive scaling composition, I do have to give them a favor. I think that with this Finn and Blackfeather, the late game is going to be really strong. And as long as they get to that 15-minute mark, Vox will do that damage. On the other hand, you do have that Sky and that Arden and Adagio combo. So this is actually the perfect scenario for this Sky to be actually played as a weapon carry. And to be able to, if they were to do this, he would be using all of like the benefits coming out of that Arden Vanguard, coming out of the Agent of Wrath on Adagio. I do have to give the advantage over to Rebel Tiger. I think that Arc Lost in Space will carry this game for them.
Alright, jumping into the game, throwing it to Action Jackson and Vedius. Good luck and have fun.
All right, thank you very much, guys. I'm looking forward to this second game. Rebel Tigers looking to close it out in a 2-0, move forward as the third-place team for the first qualifier. At the moment, Avalanche, they need to mount a comeback in order to stand a chance of getting through this as anything other than the fourth-place team. Vedius, how are you feeling about this second game?
I am once again excited. I seem to be very excited about everything. I'm a very excited person, especially when it comes to Vainglory. But the thing that excites me the most is what Rome was saying about a weapon power Sky, because as far as I can tell, we've pretty much only seen crystal power Skies so far throughout this winter qualifier. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it works and how it compares with, or how it pairs up with this Adagio. But in terms of the early game, what I'm expecting is Snow Avalanche to be the aggressors. And as I said, that HF guy already looking for that aggression.
I feel like he's a bit more at home in the jungle rather than in the lane now that we've got Araxi back up there. HF Guy has historically been playing that jungle position, so hopefully he can have a bit more of an impact this game. Did struggle last time around.
Yeah, he certainly did, and I completely agree with you. Moving him to the jungle is where I felt he shined in yesterday's semi-final against Team Secret. And when he played Blackfeather yesterday, he really was the standout carry on their team to secure themselves the first victory against Team Secret. Unfortunately, after that, Team Secret did really step up their game, and we will get to see Team Secret a little bit later, but HF Guy really was the carry when he was in that jungle position. So moving him back there, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can bring out.
Araxi needs to be careful right now moving into this side bush. Arc lost space, gonna turn up the heat a little bit, start trying to get the pressure down. But Araxi is able to get away from that one after putting a lot of pressure down onto Arc lost in space, just in terms of the poke.
Yeah, it certainly is, and Araxi needs to be careful because Law now actually being the one aggressively moving up into the lane and providing support for Arc Lost. And this is something that we're seeing more often with this Rebel Tigers lineup, where they basically try and support Arc Lost during the early game, because a lot of aggression tends to come down onto him. Because I think a lot of people respect him as that carry, as the guy that has a lot of mechanical prowess, and really, if he gets a slight lead, can run away with the game.
And on the flip side, when he has struggled, he's really struggled, right? Might be one of these emotional players that does kind of tilt a little bit. It's hard to say for sure without analyzing like a far higher volume of his games, but when he has been shut down, he has historically really struggled to come back into the game.
He has. But so far, he was the player that we brought into question during the pre-game show. We were like, when it comes down to this matchup, can Arclos step it up? Can he be the carry that we know him to be? And so far, he's been doing just that as a fight kicks off.
Yeah, Green Hornet taking a brunt of damage here on the side of Tigers. Ford Barrage not quite having the same impact as a Crystal Power build early on here. Yeah, nice job by Avalanche, pressuring on the early game. Araxi does have to be careful, though he's fairly low health. Green Hornet very low as well. One or two autos from Araxi might have been able to pick him up there, but Hornet was able to escape.
But it looks like Snow Avalanche looking to be the aggressors. They want to try and capitalize on this weak early game of Blackfeather. I think he's in trouble.
Green Hornet walking a very strange way to get out of there, but actually, Araxi just decided, you know what, Bash, you got this, I'm going to leave. Finally turns around and helps his teammate out. First kill of the game, going the way of Avalanche.
A bit of a questionable decision-making from Green Hornet. I felt like he could have just disengaged, gone back to base, but by going into his jungle to pick up a bit of extra farm, Snow Avalanche realized this, they followed him in and secured themselves the first blood. So, smart play from Snow Avalanche, but also big misplay from Green Hornet. Not something that you want to be doing when you have such a great scaling composition.
Avarice is the bane of many players, I feel like, for Vainglory, and you know, pretty much everything. It's just one of those things where if you're too greedy and you go for a camp when you really shouldn't, you're going to get punished. We saw last game Blackfeather struggle to reach a point where he was relevant, and that could happen very much for the opposing team here if he does give away too many kills early on.
The one thing I want to quickly touch on is this change-up in the vision coming out from Snow Avalanche now, because they are chucking down significantly more scout traps than we saw earlier, and that seems to come from their aggressive playstyle that they have now picked up. With this composition, they can afford to walk into the enemy jungle and make those plays, and just look at all these scout traps that are coming out from Bash. He is not holding back when it comes to this deep and effective vision control, which is now going to give them the very early gold mine.
Yeah, this is them doing a perfect or textbook example of what you need to be doing with your vision control. It's actually leveraging that to find some kind of an edge. The gold mine is a great example. Araxi, as soon as he goes straight back to lane, you can see Lore trying to make something happen, but Green Hornet caught out a little bit. Bash takes a lot of damage, but with Death from Above available to HF Guy, they still want to go for a fight here. They got to be careful. Arc lost some space, doing some good damage. Lore actually gets a return kill with the Quibble, and they finally managed to even things up 1-for-1.
So this time, what looked like a bad fight for Rebel Tigers actually worked out very well because it forced Snow Avalanche into that choke point, which allowed Lore to land multiple Quibbles onto multiple targets, and Arcloss was free to do the damage from the backline, and notice how much health he has. He wasn't even touched in that exchange, while Green Hornet was just trying to draw some of the attention away, and it enabled them to position well enough to secure themselves a kill back onto the board. So very well executed fight from the Rebel Tigers right there.
I'm very impressed that they were able to do that with the later scaling comp. Compared to what we saw last game, at this kind of equivalent stage, Avalanche, who had a more late game comp, weren't really able to pull off the same kind of a fight, so that is a glimmer of hope for the side of the Tigers. But that said, Avalanche, they're still doing a good job with the vision control. They still got the gold mine. They have things going for them in a broader sense. It's just about whether or not they can maintain this, because once it gets late enough in the game, I don't think there's any question that there's just going to be so much damage coming out of Vox, Black Feather, Finn with the Forced Accords can make so many plays. It's going to be hard for Avalanche, I think, later on.
But it is still the early game, and this is where their comp is very strong. And you have to remember that a Sky can still pack a decent punch, but hang on, speaking of Sky,
Hornet actually doing a good job of starting the fight off when he knew he could get away with Rose offensive. Arc lost in space, kiting around here, is going to get out of that burst of judgment. Araxi now very low. HF Guy as well. There's the Forced Accord. It actually hooks in the Gold Miner as well, though. Lore leading the charge is going to find that first kill. Going to have to try and get out of here now, though. HF Guy is going to have forward barrage available. Has a lot of damage from that. Araxi might get capitalized on, though. On point coming out from Green Hornet. The damage from Araxi is big, but he has to just run away. Lore now taking a lot from the forward barrage, but he's used himself baiting in there for the entirety of the skill, and that's given Green Hornet a chance to turn it around. Arc lost in space, still very healthy. 2 kills going over to the Rebel Tigers.
And what a well-played fight from the Rebel Tigers. Notice how Lore used his polite company to just drag everybody in to such a close proximity to each other that once again, he could get multiple Quibbles off onto multiple targets. They are using this Finn so effectively in this matchup, and it is allowing Arcloss to position in a way that he can get his damage down onto multiple targets. I was a little bit worried when he landed that Forced Accord onto the Gold Miner, because in the 4 versus 3, I felt like that could have been an opportunity for Snow Avalanche to turn things around, but they were able to play around it. They were able to kite around the fight, split up Snow Avalanche, and then once Snow Avalanche were divided, after dragging them all in, that was the opportunity that Green Hornet needed to then start trying to clean up the fight, and it ended up going actually only 1 or 2 kills over in the favor of Rebel Tigers.
Yeah, Avalanche trying to find something on the return here. They realize that Lore's still kind of low. Arc lost in space is going to be the main target, though. Gonna Sonic Zoom out of here. Manages to get away for now. Lore has the Forced Accord, pulls an HF Guy, but does not land the Quibble, and now Green Hornet needs to be careful. He's taking a lot of damage on the return from HF Guy, who's gonna maybe look to dive this tower, posturing like he wants to be aggressive. I feel like it would be a little bit bold. He is gonna back away.
He certainly is. So, bit of back and forth trading between the two teams. Rebel Tigers being very hesitant to go for any straight up engagement because they do still have that later scaling composition, so it is risky to fight HF Guy on this guy right now. He hasn't had an opportunity to complete any major items on this weapon power Sky, but once he does, I'm looking forward to seeing how much damage he can do paired up with Araxi, because I feel like come the mid game, he's going to hit a pretty significant spike.
I would agree with you there. And Green Hornet, learning from his earlier mistakes there, used On Point to pull the camp from in the bush so that he could keep an eye out. Right now, Bash wants to go for a fight, though. That's the gauntlet used. Lore is fairly tanky on the backside, and Araxi wants to find Arc lost in space. He gets the kill. HF Guy finds Green Hornet, too. Lore likely going to go down as well. This could be an ace. He needs to live for 10 seconds if he wants to deny it, and he cannot do so. An ace coming in for Avalanche at just about 10 minutes into the game.
I was just saying, Rebel Tigers, they're avoiding those fights right now because they know that Snow Avalanche have the stronger team composition, yet they decide to go into their own half of the jungle because they felt like they've caught HF Guy out of position, and it turns out that HF Guy is actually the one that was baiting them in. Phenomenal gauntlet came down from Bash, and the very early Crucible that we see from Law was just held onto for a little bit too long, which resulted in it not actually being any benefit whatsoever. So that results in HF Guy and the side of Snow Avalanche securing themselves an ace, as well as picking up the first turret of the game. So very well played from Snow Avalanche, regaining control of the game.
Not to mention, and we haven't touched on it in a while, the gold mine has continuously been in control of Avalanche this game. So they're actually cashing out a few times on that. They've managed to accrue a over 3,000 gold lead at the moment, which is very decent, very respectable for the 10.5-minute mark. But 15 minutes, I'd say, is when you need to start worrying about, for example, Arc Lost in Space and his damage, right? So you wouldn't expect Tigers to necessarily be doing too well right now, and I'm sure they're not panicking too much. They've also got the game up. They've got the wiggle room here. Whereas on the side of Avalanche, every single play is life or death because they've got their backs against the walls, and they need to win this to even have a hope of getting third place.
Yeah, precisely that. The goal difference between the two teams isn't that big, given that Rebel Tigers do have the scaling composition. All they need is one decent fight once they've completed those major items to really run away with the game and regain that gold gap that suddenly has began to accumulate. The items that you really need to keep an eye out for is Arc Lost. He's already got 2 of his major items, the Alternating Current combined with the Broken Myth. Alongside that is Green Hornet going for a very early Shiver Steal, but Snow Avalanche, they want this turret.
They're doing a lot of damage to it, but look at that. Immediately after being hooked in, that's going to be a kill going down onto Araxi. HF Guy is in a bit of a tough spot here. He's got a lot of people on his back. Bash has already fallen. Can Lore get this one? Looks like HF Guy will be able to get away from here, but right off the back, oh, Green Hornet! He used on point from out of range, didn't get the shield, went down to the forward barrage. A bit of an overextension there from the Rebel Tigers.
But it was also an overextension from Snow Avalanche for that fight to go so well in the favor of Rebel Tigers in the first place. Snow Avalanche wanted that turret, so much so that they committed insanely hard to try and get it for themselves, and that resulted in Araxi being in a position that was not great. He gets dragged in by the Forced Accord from Law, and that secures the first kill for Rebel Tigers, and it just becomes a cleanup following that. But as you rightly say, Green Hornet then, he tries to get the on point onto HF Guy. He feels that he can continue this fight, but HF Guy, he has the range, he has the positioning, and he gets a return kill off the back of it. But still, 2 kills in favor of Rebel Tigers, and they are successful in keeping that turret alive.
Yeah, and with the regenerating shield, it gives them a bit of wiggle room for the next push. I feel like they're beginning to approach the spot where they can start winning fights. Lore has Forced Accord back available again. Might look for something here. Does actually fish it out. Finds Bash, but the turret's gone down. Green Hornet quite low. Arc Lost in Space jumping in on the front line. He's actually doing a lot of damage to the side of Avalanche right now. Finds the kill onto Bash. Araxi is in a bad spot. They're actually on the wrong side of the lane, but they're doing a good job of getting the damage down. They're going to find themselves an ace right as the immense payout is collected. A massive gold influx for Snow Avalanche.
Oh, that was such a tense fight between the two teams. You could see how Rebel Tigers, it was looking great for them, largely because of a fantastic Crucible that came out to prevent Araxi from getting that multi-target stun off with his Verse of Judgment. But all of the target focus from Rebel Tigers went down onto Bash. And when he fell, I thought, well, right now, the Rebel Tigers are just going to start cleaning up the fight. But no, HF Guy combined with Araxi really shows what this weapon power Sky can do. And he was just cleaning up the fight, repositioning all the time, getting the targets that really needed to be shut down. They focused down onto Arc Lost, then they moved their attention onto Green Hornet, and then it was simply a matter of cleanup onto Law, who was the final target remaining. So very well executed fight from Snow Avalanche, but again, the target focus from Rebel Tigers just doesn't seem to be there.
Not only that, but Arc Lost in Space leading the charge, I feel, was a little bit too ambitious. He doesn't have quite enough damage to just insta-kill someone yet, and he also doesn't have the ability to just Sonic Zoom again and again and again yet, because he doesn't really have enough cooldown reduction. So he put himself in a jeopardizing position and did fall as a result. Green Hornet got poked so low at the beginning of the fight that he couldn't follow up. Now, the 15-minute mark has finally happened. The Kraken has spawned. Avalanche have a lot of position on the map right now. They've killed 3 turrets. Rebel Tiger, they've got to be careful when trying to get vision to stop Avalanche from just taking the Kraken.
The thing for me is we've now hit the 15-minute mark, so if Snow Avalanche go for the Kraken, it could be very risky, because this is the point in the game where Rebel Tigers are saying, okay, we can fight, and there's a good chance of us winning. Because the Eve of Harvest has now been completed for Arc Lost, so he's going to have way more sustain in these next few engagements. Green Hornet has completed his Serpent's Mask, so he's also going to be having a lot more sustain in these engagements. And the fact that these fights are slowly becoming more dragged out is exactly what Rebel Tigers wants. Both teams looking for an engagement, but Rebel Tigers still a little bit hesitant to pull the trigger.
I'm actually surprised that Bash didn't just throw down the gauntlet right there. He would have had everyone inside of it, but he did decide just to back off and take position on the Kraken instead. Avalanche, they're uncontested on this right now. It looks like Tigers don't want to chance their luck.
No, they certainly don't. They're just going to give away this... They're just going to give away this Kraken, and I'm curious as to how now Rebel Tigers are going to play around this. They might look to try and get a fight in before the Kraken can even get to their base, and that could be a great opportunity for them. And as I say that, you can see them grouping up in this bush looking for the fight.
This is a very risky play, but one that could pay off in a big way. Araxi definitely does not expect it. Forced Accord, where is it? They've just let them pass, and now they're stuck between the Kraken and their base. This is bad for Tigers, but a 3-man Forced Accord comes out. Arc Lost in Space is on the right side of that gauntlet. He blocks the Verse of Judgment. Maybe he can turn this fight around. HF guy doing so much damage on the back line, though. He finds the kill. Green Hornet, he's very low. He's going to go down. Lauren, a tough spot now. 1 versus 3. Finds a 3-man stun, but it's not enough. With 30-second death timers and a Kraken out for Avalanche, they're almost certainly going to take this to a game 3.
The weapon power, Sky doing so much work on the backline, able to come out in a 1 versus 1 against Arc Lost, really showing the prowess that you can have when you're supported by that Adagio and the weapon power Sky combo. Really impressive stuff to see, and I'm really impressed with how Snow Avalanche were able to pull back in this series and take us to a game 3.
Man, really impressive comeback from Avalanche. Very nice work by them to take this to a game 3. We're going to bring Rome on and do a little bit more breakdown of that series, or of that game rather. This was a completely different performance from Avalanche. How much do you feel like that has to do with maybe the swap up? Why did they decide to take Moles off on the side of Tigers?
I felt that Rebel Tiger this last match, they actually played really well in the mid game. They were very passive. They tried to make those like more efficient types of plays, but what they were lacking on this entire match was nobody was really shot calling. Like we saw a lot of times during team engagement, there was no target prioritization. They were trying to chase around this guy who was just dancing circles around them. All they had to do was lock down this Adagio, and that extra bonus damage coming out of Sky would have pretty much rendered them useless. But instead, they started splitting up their damage across the team, and then they were chasing down the Sky in the end. And that costed them so much.
All right, so Vedius, I want to ask you a question about one thing in particular that happened towards the end of that game. Where was the Forced Accord onto Araxi? I feel like if they just burst him down, they would have been in a 2 versus 3 situation. A great spot for Avalanche. Or, sorry, for Tigers.
This comes back to what Rome was just saying. There was no decisiveness in the lineup for Rebel Tigers. They could not go in for that fight because no one was confident in making the play. Araxi was in a position to just get dragged into the bush, fall instantly, and with Adagio out of the fight, they may well have been able to shut down HF Guy, but they weren't decisive enough. That shot call role wasn't there, and that ended up in Snow Avalanche being able to take the game.
Okay, so weapon power Sky, we've got to talk about this a little bit more because we've seen very little of it, perhaps even nothing of it up until this point in the qualifier, at least for EU. Rome, Why does that work so effectively? You know, that 6-1 and 3, a very respectable score out of HF guy. He was doing ridiculous damage in the late game.
Weapon Sky actually works really well with this composition, considering how you're getting this Agent of Wrath coming out of that Adagio. With that extra bonus damage, with that heal, the Sky is able to like pretty much use her perk to quickly maneuver around positioning wise in terms of every time a team fight starts to happen. And with that breaking point on, we saw that during that team fight where the Rebel Tiger was winning in the early part, but the thing is they decided to collapse onto Bastion on that Arden, and once that happened, they turned around to get the Sky, but Sky at that point had about 17 stacks of breaking point already, which is why you see her obliterating everybody just through auto attacks.
All right, well, that was a ton of damage coming out from her in the late game. On the flip side, Yvetis, I want to ask you a little bit about this one. Something which was a little bit strange, in my opinion, was the very forward positioning of Arc Lost in space. Do you think that was just an oversight, or maybe he was trying to make up for what Green Hornet lacked in some of these later game fights?
I think that given the mobility of the composition that Snow Avalanche were running, he could afford to go into that forward position because other than Arden, there's no real front line. And given how mobile you are on a Vox, you can just dance around that fight and you want to be getting that damage down onto these priority targets. I think what that aggressive tendency resulted in is it put him in a position that set up perfectly for HF Guy to then get all of the damage down that he needed to quickly eliminate Arc Loss from these engagements. The big thing for me was Green Hornet. He came in, he took the place of Moles, he went back into the jungle while Law moved into that roam position, and he just didn't have the game that we were expecting. I'm a little bit debatable as to what they're going to do coming into this final game.
I'm inclined to agree with you there. So a question to both of you guys, Rome, if you could answer first. I'm quite curious about Finn, in a more broad perspective, because if you look at the last two games, it has really, really struggled, and in general, these later game comps have struggled. Why do you think that is? Is it the lack of decisiveness with the shot calling? Because the Forced Accords haven't been on point.
The Forced Accord is probably one of the biggest playmakers in the entire game in general. Like where you have one ultimate that's able to reposition the entire enemy team. But when you're looking at Finn, you have to take a look at how to play around him. Because Finn is very immobile, he's very slow, he's exactly like Saw and Kroll. And to be able to play these three heroes, the team has to know how to play around them, to be able to move as one, especially watching your positioning during team fights. You notice a lot of times where they start to engage, and as the enemy team backs off, this Finn is just waddling across the map while his two allies are like way far ahead of him. And if they're not able to like collaborate together to be able to be in that same type of position, then they're not using Finn's like abilities to like their benefit.
All right, Vedius, I was going to ask you a bit more about this, but actually the players are in the lobby and ready to start going into Champion Select, Hero Select rather. So we're going to pass back to the guys in Germany and get ready for the third and final game of this third place match.
Yeah, thank you very much. We have actually a roster change to announce. Laura left the team and Mwalze is coming back in. So pretty interesting to see how this roster change will affect the outcome of the third match. Seems like Mwalze seems comfortable enough to play that third match. Of course, a lot of stuff is here on the board. They have to win. The winning team, they qualify for the live championships by points, and the fourth team, so the loser of the next match, they do not. They have to go another round into the second qualifier and try to get some more points there. And if you want to play in the VGL, just go to vaingloryleague.com and sign up, apply for the second qualifier, which is open for now.
Ben, Sam, and Ken are on separate journeys to defeat the menacing Vile Dragon. But let's just say luck isn't on their side. If only there was a way for them to find each other and band together. Well, that's why there's Band. It's a mobile app that allows people to come together using common interests. With Band, you can find fellow gamers, chat, schedule gaming sessions, and conduct polls. Stage epic battles with friends while sharing videos and photos along the way. So try Band today. Band. Be together.
Looking at the teams right now, we have Adagio, Arden, and Blackfeather on one side, with Rebel Tigers playing this Catherine, Glaive, and Celeste. And we've seen a lot of these comfort picks come out before. On the side of Snow Avalanche, what we're looking at towards this game is how much of a threat this Blackfeather is. And on the side of Rebel Tiger is they have to make sure that they don't make the exact same mistakes as last game. If they're going to be chasing around this Blackfeather into that late game while he's building up his breaking point stacks, they will die. They need to take out this Adagio first. And as long as Rebel Tiger is able to maintain their positioning and on that Glaive, using the Afterburn to peel for their Celeste, I think that Rebel Tiger will come out with the win this one. But we'll throw it to the casters and we'll let this game run.
All right, thank you very much, Rome. We're on to the fold for the final time of this third-place game between Snow Avalanche and Rebel Tigers. Vedius, it's been a very hard-fought series for these guys, but who do you think will clinch it in the final game?
Well, originally I felt like Snow Avalanche had the edge, but given what I've seen from Rebel Tigers so far, I think that they have a great shot at being able to close out this series, especially seeing as now they've come back to the lineup that they were running yesterday. They have Arc Lost, or hang on a second, because Rebel Tigers want to fight.
Bash is being very aggressive here, leading the charge and helping HF Guy. You got to remember how much damage an Adagio can do right off the bat in this early game. He's got his boots picked up, so he's going to be chasing onto Moles. Bash doesn't have a lot to get him closer, though. It might be kind of difficult to finish this kill off. There's a Vanguard. It's not going to be enough. Moles gets away whilst Green Hornet farms those back camps.
And this is very smart from Green Hornet, realizing that the chase was coming out down onto Moles, so he wants to take advantage of as much as possible. So moving on to these back camps, realizing that he's probably going to lose his own back camps, secures himself some farm and experience in this early game. But Araxi, he wants to try and stop this.
He does. He is going to be collapsing onto Green Hornet right now. They are both level 2 with a decent amount of scaling, although Green Hornet finding that back camp has actually leveled up to level 3. Will it be enough, though? Araxi moving away towards the lane. It looks like maybe he wants to swap his focus onto the minions dying to the tower, because he's losing a lot of farm. We've also got HF Guy coming in here trying to find a kill onto Arc, lost in space. Can't get that last auto attack down, though. He just barely escapes. That was a series of unfortunate events, I feel, for Avalanche. They didn't get any of what they were going for there.
No, and the thing is, even after that pressure, they weren't even able to build that much of a lead off the back of it either. Yes, they end up forcing Arc Lost back, and he's going to lose a little bit of farm off the back of that, but still, in the grand scheme of things, the game is still very even. So even with a very aggressive playstyle coming out from Snow Avalanche, Rebel Tigers do a good job to lose not too much in terms of this early game.
Yeah, it was an admirable performance by them, and I like the fact that they kind of, well, for example, we saw Arclost just push the lane really rapidly as soon as Araxi left, so you had to make a choice. So you're going to lose all these minions, which is a lot of gold, or you're going to pick up Green Hornet. And in the end, I guess he made maybe the wrong choice. But now Tigers are grouping up, in fact. They are gathering as 3 and beginning to invade a little bit. Arc lost in space, trying to back up his team and secure themselves some kind of an edge here in the early game.
They certainly are, and this is the thing that I wanted to talk about initially, and it's this roaming combination of Green Hornet and Moles that we saw a lot of during the semi-finals. These two love to walk into the enemy jungle together, constantly looking for these plays, and when you have this Glaive Adagio combo, Glaive Catherine combo, it can make for a very heavy stun combo if you do not respect the positioning or the damage that they have in this early game.
Whoa! Arc lost in space just got melted. Very high damage coming out of Raxi right off the bat there. Got to remember how much that lunge can do when he builds up the Heartbreak stacks onto you. Mole's only going to take a little bit of poke there.
Wow, I didn't even notice that was happening. It happened so quickly. Araxi with the aggressive plays in lane. And this now comes back to what we were talking about in relation to Arc Lost. He had a phenomenal game 1. His positioning was a little bit debatable in game 2, and now in game 3 he's losing 1 versus 1 against the phenomenal laner of Araxi, as now Arc Lost is the target focus again.
Yeah, but this time Moles is here for the turnaround. Core Collapse doing a great stun onto Araxi there. We've actually got a gank from Green Hornet too. Very nice afterburn, keeping him in range for Arc Lost and him to take down the kill. It's 1 for 1 right now, only 4.5 minutes into the game.
So this is good. This is what we saw during Game 1, when Moles rotated up and provided that little bit of additional support for Arc Lost, because a lot of pressure tends to go down onto this individual. And then with a great gank from Green Hornet on this glaive, they were able to set up a kill onto Araxi so that he is now equal to Arc Lost in this early game. So scores now balancing out, gold still very even. And question is, who's going to be the first team to come out ahead in this game? I'm expecting Tigers to be the more aggressive players during the early game, but from what we've seen so far, that hasn't been quite the case.
No, it hasn't actually. Avalanche have been very, very aggressive, even though they maybe have not been able to support that aggression as much as they would like. It hasn't been paying off too well. You got to remember how strong Glaive is early on at setting up these kills with the afterburn, especially when he's backed up by Catherine and that stun. You know, there's a lot of crowd control on the side of Tigers. HF Guy, though, roaming in here, trying to maybe find something. Green Hornet easily able to speed away, though.
So right now it is once again Snow Avalanche being the aggressors, moving in towards the enemy jungle. And we need to come back to this vision control that we talk about a lot, because I think scout traps are important. But hang on, HF Guy, you've been caught out.
You are kiting the wrong way, sir. Moving towards the enemy base is very risky. There's a solar storm coming across. HF Guy just barely getting away with the Vanguard. Green Hornet didn't quite land his ultimate there, so he wasn't able to find the kill. He's still moving forward, though. They know, because of the scout trap that just popped, where he is heading. Moles might try and find a stun. HF Guy, do not be greedy and go for that farm. It would be a very big mistake. Moles, he's looking for the engagement. Finds Bash, not the target he's looking for. And it looks like Tigers are going to just back off, start up this gold mine.
This is a bit of a risky decision to make, but Arc Lost, given his positioning, is just soloing away Snow Avalanche. They are too afraid to walk into that core collapse and the heliogenesis, and here comes the fight.
The gold mine picked up right before that, so Avalanche don't have anything to fight for other than kills. Moles, with the health potion at the last second, does buy a little bit more time for his team to do the work, but are they going to be able to find any more? Araxi, he's going to jump in, but he goes down. He bit off more than he can chew, and Bash, the lone survivor for the side of Avalanche, going to have to seek shelter under his turret.
I think there was a bit of miscommunication right there from Snow Avalanche at the end, because Araxi goes in for the aggressive play, and I think he was expecting Bash to provide support with the Vanguard, but he didn't realize that it was still on cooldown, and that support just wasn't there, so he ended up dashing into his death, which resulted in Rebel Tigers securing themselves 2 kills as well as the gold mine. So there was that early aggression, but it was a lot more calculated than I was expecting, rather than this blind aggression that we're so used to seeing from the Rebel Tigers. They didn't really have the vision that they needed to properly set that up, but they knew that Snow Avalanche would come to the gold mine, and they knew that if they positioned properly, they could come out ahead in the fight. They took the gold miner, they confidently went for the fight, and they end up coming out ahead.
All right, well, we're going to have to see which one of these teams can keep up the pressure. Obviously, both of them are feeling a lot of that pressure right now, as it is the final game of this best of 3. Like you heard earlier from Blueberries and Don John, it's a very important game. The points that you gain from coming 3rd versus 4th do make a big difference when it comes to qualifying for the Live Championships, the event that everyone wants to be going to. It's going to be in London. It's not that far away. It's about an hour away from me. Very excited. Araxi, though, he actually gets knocked out of the Solar Storm and still killed. There's a lot of damage on the Rebel Tigers right now.
The Rebel Tigers, better positioning, better vision control, and now they're looking to set up a siege onto this first turret.
Green Hornet goes down. He had turret aggro when he started attacking Bash. Now the gauntlet comes out. Arc lost in space in a tough spot. Doesn't have a reflex block to get away, but they're trying to turn on to HF Guy. They can't find the kill, and now Moles needs to book it out of there. That was 2 kills traded for 1 and a turret. Not the worst trade, but definitely not the best.
As you rightly said, no reflex blocks completed yet resulted in that fight going heavily in the favor of Snow Avalanche, and Green Hornet overcommitting for that turret. ends up in him losing his life, and I don't think he realized that he even had tower aggro, because he seemed to be sitting under that tower for quite a while, and once he was out of the fight, that repositioning tool that the Afterburn provides, as well as a lot of the early game damage that Rebel Tigers have, was no longer available, which meant that Snow Avalanche saw that as an opportunity that they quickly capitalized upon, getting themselves 2 kills as well as the gold mine. But Araxi, he is now the next target focus, as he's going to quickly disengage from that 3-man unit.
Yeah, it took a lot of brunt damage right there. Mole's doing a great job of being the front line for the Tigers right now, but you've got to be careful, especially when you're pushing so aggressively, to make sure that you don't go under those turrets and get aggro like Green Hornet did there. You get a lot of AoE from Glaive when you're building up crit, for example, so you have to be careful about ambient damage just overflowing onto your opponents, pulling that aggro gold mine. Started off by the Tigers here. They're going to get a tiny payout, mostly just for that vision control. I think they want to keep up this aggression.
They certainly do. It provides you with good vision control over the bottom half of the map, but hang on, Arc Lost.
Good core collapse onto Araxi and HF Guy. There's a Solar Storm. A Silence buys a lot of time there. The Afterburn onto HF Guy. 2 quick kills for Rebel Tigers. Bash, the only remaining member on the side of Avalanche, is actually taking a lot of damage here from Hornet, but he doesn't have an Afterburn again for another few seconds. Can't commit for even more there. Very nice plays out of Tiger, managing to, even though they got caught, find several kills.
Big credits to Arc Lost right there, being able to land that core collapse to get a double stun onto both Araxi and HF Guy, allowed the Fountain of Renewal to regenerate his health long enough to then keep him in the fight, also for long enough to buy enough time for Green Hornet to then join the fight and clean up the kills. But Green Hornet needs to be careful right now.
Just going to Afterburn right through that gauntlet. Moles, on the other hand, going to tank up the damage. Arc Lost in Space is back now, though, and look at Araxi getting bursted out by those Heliogenicide. Is it going to be enough? They're trying to position close to that gold mine, make sure that it's helping them out, and they actually knock HF Guy into it. This is a lot of damage coming out of Arc Lost in Space. This is why I love seeing him on the Celeste every time. It really impresses me. That said, HF Guy and the rest of Avalanche have disengaged fairly well here. They're trying to buy some more time, but the core collapse lands. They want to go back in. Green Hornet, he's going to move towards that gold mine again, try and enlist it to help, but the Snow Avalanche have done a great job of buying time here. That said, Moles, coming back from base, might be able to get the stun down onto Bash to make sure that Arc Lost in Space can kite out. He's actually going to go for HF Guy, but Arc Lost in Space is going to go down to Bash, the gold mine. One more attack would be enough, but he doesn't get into range. This is such a messy fight between the two teams. Ultimately, no gold mine going down, though. It's just a pile of corpses in the middle side of the map.
So that actually ends up being a 1 for 3, but it might be a 2 for 3 if Bash isn't careful. Moles decides not to commit for that fight, but wow, as you rightly said, a bit of a messy engagement. Rebel Tigers, after they lost Green Hornet, after they lost Moles at the very start, Green Hornet and Arc Lost decided to stick around because they wanted to keep the gold mine in their favor, and they felt like if the gold miner would help in their fight, then they could still maintain it, because there were a lot of low health targets on the side of Snow Avalanche. But the biggest problem was that they didn't have a minion candy to really ask for the help of the gold mine, so they had to do a lot to get the gold miner involved in the fight. And HF Guy combined with Bash and Araxi all kited around as well, but right now they're going again on for another fight.
Arc Lost in Space starting to kite out here. Big Solar Storm down onto HF Guy. He's looking for those Heliogenesis. Is he going to be able to find the kill, though? Araxi on the flip side in a 1 versus 2. HF Guy very, very low. The kiting coming out is just not quite there from Avalanche. Now the gold mine is even helping out the side of Tigers. Arc Lost in Space is falling pretty low, but a core collapse comes across. That's 2 more kills picked up for the Tigers. And Moles, the last man standing, finds himself the ace.
Such crazy fights between these two teams. You can see who the priority targets are in every single exchange. Rebel Tigers, they want to shut down HF Guy as quickly as possible. The amount of support that he's providing with the heals, with the Agent of Wrath, is making Rebel Tigers' life so difficult that if they can get rid of him as soon as possible, then they know that they can come out ahead in these fights. But Bash is not allowing that to happen, and Araxi, while all this is going on, is constantly applying pressure to Arc Lost. He on the backline with this Celeste is doing what he can to kite around. He's getting some beautiful core collapses, but often it just isn't quite enough, and he still ends up trading 1 for 1 against Araxi. If it wasn't for the gold miner, Rebel Tigers could have heavily fallen behind in that last exchange.
They definitely could have, and They might fall behind in this one if they're not careful. Gotta be careful about the face checking those bushes. Something I want to highlight here, Arc Lost in Space is doing an admirable job of kiting around without a Frostburn, which is a very typical pickup. Moles, though, caught out here, is taking a lot of damage right off the bat. Araxi finds himself that kill. Now Arc Lost in a bad spot. Gonna be stunned up. Not quite, actually. Reflex block comes across, but it's not enough. Oh, Green Hornet! What was that AoE damage? He finds the kills! Rebel Tiger with an amazing turnaround fight.
I want to give the credit to Green Hornet, but really it belongs to Arclost because of that beautiful Solar Storm into the core collapse, set up Green Hornet perfectly to clean up that fight. What was looking like a terrible exchange for Rebel Tigers after Moles gets caught out right at the start, gets turned around thanks to the great play that Arclost and Green Hornet were able to make. Green Hornet, last game, he didn't have the performance that we were expecting of him. This game, he has definitely stepped things up, and he's looking to carry Rebel Tigers into that third place spot.
This is the thing, right? If you group up on one spot, then Glaive is going to wipe you out. He has a lot of crit built up right now. Every time he does crit, he deals splash damage, and it really just rips apart your team. So when everyone collapses onto Arc Lost, he can use that as an opportunity to deal the damage he needs to. Right now, Tigers are looking for an opportunity, but Bash with the counter engage. There's the gauntlet. Is it going to be enough? Araxi stunned up. The Solar Storm not really doing enough damage there, and Green Hornet not finding the good afterburn. That said, Heliogenesis coming out. Araxi with a big shield, but is it going to be enough? He goes down. Moles is going to be trying to get on to Bash right now. Green Hornet as well, leading the charge, finds the afterburn, but a bit of miscommunication there. The rest of the Tigers had backed away. There's the stun out of Catherine. Bash very low health, but he doesn't go down. No reflect damage was coming out of Moles there to find the kill. Now HF Guy gonna be the next target. Arc Lost in Space. No real energy right now to keep this fight going, and in fact you can see Green Hornet had to abandon it as a result of having fairly low health here. So Snow Avalanche, they're just stopping the backs, making sure that they can maybe go for a kill here. Bash leading the charge, but he also doesn't have any blood built up there for the dash. Buying themselves that time has maybe allowed for them to go for this Kraken. You're seeing the recalls come through. Tigers, they find a turret, but they lose a much bigger objective.
They certainly do, but remember how many turrets are still available on the map for Rebel Tigers. This Kraken, I'm not entirely sure how effective it's going to be, because Rebel Tigers have been coming out ahead in every single one of these exchanges. It comes back to this miscommunication that Rome was talking about at the end of last game for Rebel Tigers. It seems that Snow Avalanche are now the ones that aren't properly communicating as Bash looks for another engagement.
He is trying to find something here. At the moment, Kraken is taking a decent amount of damage. There's a turret here this far out because we haven't seen any go down for Avalanche yet, though. Moles tries to get the stun on HF Guy, can't find it. Solar Storm misses onto everyone, and the Kraken does take down the turret. Here comes that gauntlet. Moles gets stunned up. Reflex block from Lost in Space to get him some distance here. Green Hornet fairly low. Moles doing a great job on the front line, just buying time for the kite to come out from his damage dealers. Araxi sitting behind the turret looking for Moles. Can he find it? He might go down here. Moles hasn't fallen. Now the afterburn comes through. Bash is very low. The Heliogenesis gets the kill, and the Kraken, although it finds the turret, is going to go down. That ended up being a fairly good defense from Rebel Tigers.
I'm going to give it to Rebel Tigers right there, because coming out ahead in that fight was exactly what they needed to do. HF Guy was doing a great job of sitting on the backline, providing that support with Araxi, and given now that he's got two major items in the form of Serpent's Mask combined with the Breaking Point, means that they will do so much work. But for Arc Lost in Space, his ability to kite was phenomenal. The fact that he was landing those core collapses onto the right target, and the fact that Mole somehow managed to survive with like 5 HP was just ridiculous. They were doing so well in terms of keeping their team members alive. The Rebel Tigers were able to come out ahead, they were able to kill the Kraken, and now they're sitting on a 3,000 gold lead, and what feels like they have full control of the game.
That said, and this is, the big thing I want to note here, Araxi is just going to get stronger and stronger with time. But I actually really like the comp that Tigers are running, because although they didn't have the strongest early game and they don't have the strongest late game, they're very relevant at all points in the game, because someone like Celeste is always going to be able to cut you out and do a lot of damage. She's actually built a very late Frostburn here. HF guy wants to go in, does get stunned up though. There's a really big silence out of Moles. That could be fight winning for the Rebel Tigers. Bash in a bad spot in no man's land right now, trying to run away and distract the Tigers from taking the turret. They're not going to fall for the bait, though. They're going right in for it. Massive mishap. HF guy thinking he could set something up there when he definitely could not.
And look, Moles is stopping Bash from being able to go back. That means that the Rebel Tigers are in a 2v1, setting up a siege onto the base of Snow Avalanche, but they're not going to continue that push. They're just going to disengage. So now we have a bit of roam combat back into the bottom half of the jungle as Bash and Moles continue to just slap each other.
I love this coming out of Green Hornet. He decides to actually go back to base rather than run down to get Bash, because he knows he can just pick up some items on the way. Really nice play by Moles, knowing and having the presence of mind this is the right thing to do, just to chase onto Bash. Green Hornet is going to get the kill credit for that one, as the turret finds the kill. And because that was so delayed, we've now got 40 seconds where Bash is not available. This could be another push coming in for the Tigers.
Certainly could be. I believe the Kraken is going to be spawning relatively soon, so that could be a major objective that the Rebel Tigers are looking for. But I just want to quickly recap back to that big fight that happened, because we never had an opportunity to break it down. And the thing is, HF Guy got completely denied. He just ran straight into all three members of Rebel Tigers. He gets silenced, he gets core collapsed, he gets solar stormed, and he's gone. 3 abilities and he was out of the fight. He didn't even get an opportunity to say hello. He was like, hey, it's me, and now he's dead. And HF Guy taken out so quickly suggests that Snow Avalanche, their communication seems to be a little bit off themselves. Not being able to decisively act in an efficient manner and going for that engagement results in them falling behind, losing control of the map, and now Rebel Tigers, they're going to try and secure themselves the Kraken.
They are going to be going for it. We've got Snow Avalanche nearby, but one thing I want to touch on, Moles just got an Atlas Pauldron. That could be big here. We're going to have to see if they can find the steal. Araxi taking a lot of damage. Oh, Solar Storm to the face from point-blank range. That was a lot of damage out of Arc Lost in Space. They're going to get 2. The Kraken nearly goes down, but they want to make sure no steal is possible. They're not even going to kill the Kraken. They know they can end right here, right now. The snow is melting, Vedius. Rebel Tigers, they're going in for this 3rd place position right off the back of that fight.
They certainly are. 20-second death timer on Araxi, 20 plus for the rest of Snow Avalanche. There's nothing that they're going to be able to do to keep themselves in this game, and it's going to be Rebel Tigers securing that 3rd place spot and securing a place in the European Live Championships.
Very impressed with their performance today. I really was happy to see Arc Lost in Space back on form, compared to yesterday when he was really struggling up against Tsunami. But now let's bring Rome on. Let's break down this series. There might be some lessons here that the teams who are in the finals, which is going to be coming up soon, can maybe take something from.
Well, looking at both of these teams, before the matches even started, I said they're very strong in terms of their mechanical suits, but I always gave the advantage towards Rebel Tiger due to having that certain synergy level that I find like it's very impressive, and they do have that advantage against the Snow team. But looking at like how they played out this match, I think that Moles was probably their centerpiece in terms of who was doing that shot calling, who was doing the initiations, and he did an excellent job, especially given like how we do see him play that Finn a lot. We do see him play that Catherine a lot. He does really well, especially in terms of that setup. But looking at Adagio's build, like he did excellent, but what the other team he should have taken advantage of was the other team did get a reflex block on that Celeste, did get a reflex block on that Glaive, but with that timing, and especially when you're going against a Catherine, to be able to use that stun just to negate and just to cancel out that ultimate coming from Adagio made a big difference in this game.
So actually, one question that I want to pose to you guys is about the clockwork on Moles. I haven't seen that many clockworks being picked up on Catherine's. It felt like she was doing a great job of running point for her team, getting the crowd control she needed. Is that a big part of the reason why?
With that clockwork on the Catherine, it gives her pretty much, she's able to stun at least twice in a short team fight. initiating with a stun and having another stun up within a couple seconds, it's great. But you have to add on that with her perk, with her heroic perk, every time that she does land a stun, she does land her ultimates, she gets stacks of armor and shield, and this benefits them so much towards the late game. She didn't really need any other items apart from that Warhorn to engage, and apart from that Fountain. She could have opted out for, after this, going after the Clockwork, she could have gotten Aftershock, she could have gotten more crystal damage items, just to make that more of a pivotal role during these team fights.
All right, that's interesting. So, Vedius, obviously we've seen the entirety of this series between the two teams. Both you and I were under the impression that Avalanche was going to come out swinging. What do you think was the big point for the Tigers that allowed them to pull out this win? Personally, I think Arc Lost in Space had a massive impact.
While he did, I actually want to give big props to Green Hornet, because we talked a lot about comfort picks during the pre-game show and how Arc Lost, if he can get his comfort pick, he's going to have a big impact on the game. But Green Hornet coming onto this glaive really showed why he's on this lineup and what he can offer, because his positioning, the repositioning that he used with the Aftershock was always phenomenal. He was providing peel at the right time. He knew when to go aggressive onto the backline at the right time. And with a score of 8, 3, and 12, he really showed his expertise on that hero.
All right, well, that was a lot of interesting points, guys. Thank you very much for the insight. I'm going to pass back now to the Germans. They're going to be leading us into what is the finals for the first qualifier of the winter season of VGL. I'm excited to get into casting it. Don, John, and Blueberries, take it away.
Thank you very much, Action Jackson, and we are sending out our GGs to Rebel Tigers, also from Germany, securing the spot in the live finals, in the live championships in the end of March in the London Gfinity Arena. And as you can see, nothing else is going to be the next match. It's going to be the Team Secret conquering against the sister team of Snow Avalanche. It's going to be Snow Tsunami versus Team Secret. And we're going to jump into that match and talk a bit about that matchup, especially with Rome and also both of our casters, to tell you guys a little bit more about who's playing there, and especially we need to fill you guys in on Team Secret. We need to show you who Team Secret actually was before and who is now playing on Team Secret.
Alright, so let's take a look actually at that, and I think everyone is just super hyped for the finals, and here we do actually see the result. We do see the finals, Team Secret versus Snow Tsunami, and I think as we see the picture, Team Secret acquires Media Pixel Esport. This is the name those guys are actually known for. They just won the last autumn live championships and had a, I don't know, it was just a Cinderella story. They came in from the bottom because unfortunately an SK team could not participate. They were seeded the 9th seed. The best 8 did make it, so one team dropped out. They came in and they just took the whole event, and they are now taking it on here against no one else than Snow Tsunami. This is the team they are facing. PT Lamb, Look at Me, guys like that, Susiska, they will play the finals. So definitely it is the question here. Can they make it? Can Team Secret? They had a great debut yesterday. The question is, can they just be as good as yesterday? Because they have to repeat their performance to make it here. And with this question, I would like it to give it to Rome, asking about, you know, Team Secret, such a big player famous for Dota 2, coming into Vainglory Esports. How can this affect, you know, just energizing the team here, formerly known as Media Pixel Esports?
Well, with the Team Secret as an organization, we do see their Dota teams, and they play the exact same way that the former Media Pixel Team 1 does play. They come into these games with strong drafts. They're looking down, making sure that they're counterpicking against their team. Especially if we're looking at Snow Tsunami today, coming from Media Pixel, I expect them to be either trying to focus out this, especially on Look at Me, and prioritizing their picks based around banning or picking up Cruel, and pushing them onto like other comfort picks and already making sure that they have that counter ahead of time. But what we can see is like they had the courage yesterday. They pulled it up to 3 games, and in the last game, they decided to run with that saw push comp. This is a very risky composition to actually execute and to actually win the game with, especially when you're under so much pressure leading into these final matches.
And my question here, the players to watch. We know Mowgli, Palma, Toro, Qualifier, this is the confirmed roster. Snow Tsunami, the big question mark here. Can they make it? The players to watch, Look at Me, Sasiska and PT Lam. This is the confirmed roster on their side. Vedius, my question to you. Who is the specific guy on the fold to watch for and why?
It has to be Qualifier. There can be no other player than him to keep your eyes on, because if you check out Fame Glory, they have a bunch of cool statistics on all of the winter qualifiers that have been going on throughout the last few weeks. You will notice that Qualifier is on every single one of the top 10 lists. He is 3rd for the most kills, he is 1st for most CS, he is 7th in terms of assists, and he is 1st for gold. And he is 1st for gold by quite a way. This guy is a super big part of why Team Secret are so successful, and going up against PT Lam will be one hell of a matchup to keep our eyes on.
Alright, so that being said, my question to Rome. Same question actually, who is the guy to look for on the fold, and why is, or could that guy be the potential MVP in that best of 5 series actually?
But we do have to take note that this is the finals matchup, and across from both teams, everybody is an excellent player in terms of mechanical skills, in terms of experience and game knowledge. So when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at it as how they perform as a team. To get into this top tier level already, it's the synergy and how they coordinate their team fights that actually makes them better, or actually makes them come out the victors of this next match coming up. But to point out like specific players, I do have to put it on to Qualifier, same with Vidius. While on the side of the Snow team, I do like how Look at Me plays that jungle. And if he's able to, he usually does tend to get those more passive compositions, and as long as he's able to avoid those early game team fights, he does make that difference in the late game.
Alright, we are preparing the party. We do see here Team Snow, the performance, the team KDA from the players and their picks. We have gone through this yesterday. So one trailer and then we should be ready for the picks and the bans.
It's not enough. Godwin goes down. He might go for Donna Flip. He's got one. He's got a hit two.
Welcome everyone to the esports arena here in Santa Ana for the 2015 Vainglory Autumn Season Live Finals! Going to seal the deal here at 2-0, or will they? They take down the Kraken, one hit from win.
Remember that there are no Vayne turrets available. They might look to try and end the game themselves.
That is game 3 from Liberation X.
Liberation X! Oh man, what a fantastic game! I just can't believe it, I'm lost for words. What an amazing series we had!
There we are back with the bans and draft. Team Secret here, they are team number A and they will ban first, and we immediately get the answer that we have the Black Feather ban. So Black Feather is out. With this information, I'm going to toss it over to Rome. Black Feather, super strong. We have seen him performing today, yesterday. What does that mean? What is Snow Tsunami going to ban? Or even though, like, what is Team Secret going to pick first?
What Team Secret is looking forward to is, by banning out this Black Feather, they're able to pretty much put Team Snow on specific heroes. We do see a lot of Cruels running out of both teams in previous matches, combined with the Scarf. So we're having two separate teams here that do like to play the same types of compositions. They do like to approach this game pretty evenly. A great ban coming out of them would be to try and secure out this Arden pick, because they know like as long as they force Mowgli onto that Finn, they're able to make sure like they have that early game pressure, and that's where I think Team Snow will focus on.
Alright, look at me, the captain, the overall captain of Team Snow. He is calling out that Arden ban, whereas Mowgli is replying instantly, we pick Adagio. Adagio, an opener, a flexible one to build a composition around. That is, we know that Team Secret's former known as Mediapixel Esport, they are super strong with that Adagio. Snow Tsunami coming good in this draft, or what's their strategy? What could it be?
Well, I think that with the Adagio, you're looking at something potentially like the Black Feather, like the Krull. You could even put some emphasis on a Vox as well. It's all about building around a hyper carry or a main carry that you can put a lot of emphasis onto. We saw it work very nicely with a Sky earlier in our best of 3 between Snow Avalanche and Rebel Tigers, and they could be looking for a similar sort of strategy. I'm curious as to what Snow Tsunami decide to try and counteract this Adagio pickup that Team Secret have gone for.
Most certainly. Waiting for Snow Tsunami, and they are 2 picks. Of course, giving them a couple of seconds here to decide that pick. Action Jackson, you know, you're facing Adagio as a first drafted hero. They are going for that Finn and Vox. So Finn is not on the side from Team Secret. It is on the side from Snow Tsunami together with So Strong Vox. What does that mean for the match now? Like Team Secret looking for their last 2 heroes? Who could that be?
I think there's a lot of options here, to be honest. I mean, for example, they could run the fast push composition that we saw yesterday. They have the capability of doing that with the Adagio. Or they could run, you know, Adagio in the lane and maybe like something that does a lot of damage in the jungle, or they could run it in the jungle and have like a super strong carry laner. It is so flexible that it's almost impossible to predict where they're going to go with it, just based off of the one pick. I mean, if we're looking at what would be good against Finn and Vox, personally I like the fast push comp, because Finn and Vox, they get really strong later on. So if you can just fast push and get an advantage early, you can kind of counteract that.
So we will see what Team Secret is going to pick. Rome, since they did not decide yet, do you agree to what Action Jackson said, or do you have a different idea of the draft for Team Secret here?
This is actually like a very good scenario where they do have the option of running the push comp, trying to secure up that Saw and Catherine will work really well. But with the Adagio coming as that flex pick, I think after they've seen the Finn and they've seen that Vox, they should be able to pick a composition just to counteract against this. Running a Ringo is awesome in the lane. Even running a Glaive in the lane will give them that certain momentum, especially having those buffs coming out of Adagio.
We do see here Koshka and Ringo will be the final roster. We haven't seen Ringo for a little while, at least not today as far and to yesterday. Yeah, I think only once. But Adagio, Koshka, Ringo, with Snow Tsunami now picking that Kestrel. What are your last thoughts, Rome, before we jump into that match?
I'm thinking that this match, we're going to see a lot of early rotations coming out of the side of Team Secret. Expect that Ringo to be able to quickly push that lane and rotate down. As long as they're able to make sure they maneuver around Kestrel's arrows, I think that Koshka will be able to engage and take over that jungle really early. This all depends on how well Kestrel is able to land her skill shots and how well she uses her camel to pretty much evade all those early game jumps.
Alright, we are kicking off the match. The players are locking in. The finals, ladies and gentlemen, Europe. It is Team Secret versus Snow Tsunami in a best of 5 series. Commentated by Action Jackson and Vedius in just a second.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are onto the fold for the finals. This first qualifier for VGL's winter season. My name's Action Jackson. With me is Vedius, as always. I am so excited for this series, Vedius. Team Secret, formerly Media Pixel. Such a strong team. Snow Tsunami on the other side has had a very good performance in the last few rounds, especially of the tournament. It's a best of 5. We're going to get to see lots of action from these guys. Let's just hop straight into it.
Yeah, we certainly are going to hop straight into this one, and I really want to hype up how big it is for an organization like Team Secret to be picking up this talented European roster that is Media Pixel, as, Palmatoro goes to the fight.
Already doing a pretty substantial amount of damage. That's exactly what you'd expect out of a Koshka, and as you would expect that, you gotta wonder, what was Tsunami doing being so far up? He actually might get more right now. Sasuke, look at Palmatoro right out of the gates, finding himself 2 kills.
So Team Secret want to show their organization, okay, this is it. You hired us as a team, and we're going to prove why we're worth it. Already kicking off the bat with 2 kills is a phenomenal way to start this game. They have that early game composition, and they are taking advantage of it right off the bat. Phenomenal stuff, and Team Secret so far seem to have made a great choice in terms of their team selection.
They absolutely have, and, you know, I love this. Palmatoro has been a very aggressive jungle presence in all of their games, but he's been playing like, for example, Kroll, something which scales up very heavily. In fact, until I believe yesterday, we hadn't seen him play anything other than Kroll pretty much, because Safe was the jungler that they were using in the earlier rounds. Koshka, I can't think of a better hero for him. PT Lamb, hang on a second, Qualifier, not going to be able to find that one. Polite Company Shield comes through, but revisiting my previous point, I can't think of a better hero for Palmatoro to be playing on.
Yeah, this guy has always been the person that just instigates fights. I went back through some of the games that we've seen in the past, and he just loves to go for these fights, even if they look absolutely bizarre to the rest of us, because he knows that his team is going to back him up. Mowgli is the shot caller, and all he says to Palmatoro is like, okay, you're allowed to fight right now. And Palmatoro flicks a switch, he engages almost immediately without any hesitation, and always comes out ahead. His KDA in the past was absolutely phenomenal, and after the semi-finals match yesterday, it was hurt a little bit, but he's still rocking a 9 KDA in that jungle position. Phenomenal player, and it just emphasizes how stacked up this Team Secret lineup really is.
Yeah, and the thing is, obviously, his KDA was hurt pretty badly because it was over 20 before, but that just shows you how strong the teams are later in this tournament, and I want to highlight the fact that Snow Tsunami is one of those very strong teams. They've still got the potential to come back into this one. Their comp scales very nicely into the later stages of the game, but this is a good start for Team Secret. This is exactly what you want to be doing when you pick up a Koshka in your draft.
It certainly is, and they're doing a great job of that, but can they maintain it? And as I say, that Palmatoro already going for the aggressive invade with the Koshka. They're stealing away the front camps, but they're not quite yet supporting it with that vision, keeping an eye on what Mowgli decides to do with those scout traps, because it is going to be important to help facilitate these aggressive early invades and plays. Sosaka might be the one in danger right now.
That is so much damage. Qualifier, if he'd been just a hair closer at the beginning of that fight, Sasuke would have gone down. Very, very close. Look at me not really doing too much damage to Mowgli with those glimmer shots. I like this aggression coming out of Team Secret.
The great thing is, what we've seen a lot from Europe is this innovation against Kestrel, who was stupidly popular in the VIPL, and people were struggling to figure out how to deal with it. And Team Secret were one of the teams that developed this Krull Arden strategy, where you pick these heroes that can very easily just jump on top of the Kestrel, stick to her, and prevent her from positioning in a way where she can just get all that glimmer shot damage off. And somebody that also supports that fantastic strategy is this Adagio plus Koshka strategy. You're going to have Koshka jumping onto the backline, you're going to have all that additional damage and healing support from Mowgli, and you're just going to shred through the backline of Kestrel. And then coming into the later stages, they just switch their target onto the higher priority PT Lam on this Vox. I really like the draft coming out from Team Secret, and I think that they have an answer to Snow Tsunami's composition at every stage of play.
I absolutely agree with you. The question is going to be whether or not Snow Tsunami can find any openings, any chinks in the armor of the very strong composition of Team Secret. As it stands, they're not being given any opportunities to do so, forced very far back in their jungle. They haven't left their side of the map in the last, well, 5 minutes.
No, they certainly have not. One thing I want to quickly address is one thing that I'm expecting to see is a breaking point coming out from Qualifier. When you're playing against this Finn, they're going to be pretty tanky later on, and that sets you up perfectly for getting those breaking point stacks. And once you've got those breaking point stacks, you can very easily shred through that front line that is that Finn. So keep an eye out for that type of itemization. If it's not the first item, it's very likely to be at somewhere on his priority list.
Alright, so we're seeing the gold mine immediately get picked up here by Team Secret. And we get about 200 gold each off the back of that. Very nice payout early on in the game here. And you can see that in terms of the global gold overall, 11.2 thousand in the favor of Team Secret, up against that 9.6. At only 6 minutes, that's actually quite a substantial lead. And with the 2 kills up that they have, they're in a nice spot. Qualifier needs to be careful not to over-aggress. We're seeing Tsunami play a lot in the lane. You know, they're spending a lot of their time up there making sure he can't find any kills, or if he pushes up too far, they can get a pick onto him. But Qualifier is keeping his wits about him.
But look at the positioning from Qualifier. He's always staying at the top end of the lane because he knows that the only way that a Finn is going to be able to drag him in pre-level 6 is with that polite company and following that up with a quibble. And as long as Qualifier stays just out of range of that, wow, look at me, ends up falling down.
Palmatoro finally starting to aggress a little bit deeper into the enemy jungle, does get that kill. You might see the turret go down pretty fast here. Look at that damage. There's going to be the Yummy Catnip Frenzy as well onto PT Lam. Qualifier with the attacks doesn't quite find it. One shot, one kill from the base. Look at me. Doesn't have the damage just yet to actually find any kills with it, though. Massive plays out of Team Secret.
Oh, but there's the Hellfire Brew. It should be able to land.
It does, but Polite Company does provide that small shield, which should stop him from going down. Does mean he has to walk back to base rather than recalling them.
And that's going to hurt him a little bit, and also set up for Team Secret to get this effective siege as the Forced Accord comes out from Sasuke. That likely came out because he wanted to go back to base anyway, and he was just like, yeah, if you come anywhere near this turret, I'm going to drag you under it and you're going to die. So it's more about sending a message and rather than anything else. So interesting play from Sasuke, but it does result in Team Secret backing away off the turret. Now, recapping of what happened in that exchange, PT Lam went for a very early reflex block because he knew that Palmatoro would be putting a bit of emphasis on top of him. Problem was, he wasn't quite able to get the reflex block off in time, but even he was still able to get that shield, and that shield at the very end kept him alive and enabled him to escape. The problem was that Team Secret was still able to secure themselves a turret off the back of it, so they're going to be pretty happy off the back of that. given how much control over the map that they currently have.
They have a lot of control over the map, that is for sure. Also rocking a very substantial gold lead for only 8.5 minutes, and maybe trying to extend that here with a push onto the turret. This time, they're not doing it off the back of a pick, though, so they've got to be careful not to over-aggress. We've got Force Accord back off cooldown for Sasuke. Palmatora jumping right in there, and immediately the turret gets melted. Tons of damage coming out. There's the Yummy Catnip Frenzy as well. Look at me. Immediately goes down. Forced Accord still available. Sasuke doesn't really have an opportunity to use it here, though.
You better look at him, because you're not going to see him very often if he keeps spending his time lying flat down on the floor, given how aggressive Palmatoro is with all of these ultimates. He has no hesitation, and I feel like Snow Tsunami should have expected that sort of a play to come out from Team Secret. The moment that they took down that turret, there was no reason for them not to go for that play, and Look at Me hasn't completed that reflex block yet, meaning that there was no way for him to avoid that. The follow-up was available from Mowgli, from Qualifier, and he ends up losing his life very, very quickly. Palmatoro now sitting at level 10, completed the Aftershock, completing his own reflex block, as well as that sitting at 4-0 and 0, 100% kill contribution, and he's really dictating the pace of this game.
Something I want to touch on whilst we're on the topic of items is Look at Me going for this tension bone. Now, it's obviously a very strong item. It does a lot for you in the early game, but when you're losing this heavily... Oh, Qualifier! What a good Forced Accord coming out of Sasuke, but Mowgli blocks the one-shot, one-kill, even when Snow Tsunami hook you into their base at 10 minutes, he doesn't go down. That is insanity, Vedius.
You have to give massive props to Mowgli right there, though, simply because all of the actives were used. You saw a reflex block, a crucible, and a fountain of renewal, all used to just keep Qualifier alive. And you know Mowgli is sitting there like, yo, Qualifier, can you just slow down a little bit? Let's not forget that they do have a Forced Accord on their team. They can drag you in if you're even slightly overextended, and they can come back into this game. Remember the comeback mechanic that we're so used to seeing from Europe, and Team Secret, they're no strangers to that comeback mechanic themselves.
That's true, but we haven't seen too many of them, at least in the later stages. Palmatoro jumping right in onto this turret. That's going to be a Crucible pop. The turret goes down. Forced Accord is available yet again. Qualifier needs to be careful about staying too far up. We saw what happened earlier.
We certainly did. But Team Secret maintaining that aggressive stance. They know they have the early game, and I feel like Team Secret are one of, if not the most decisive teams in Europe. They have no hesitation with what to do with their lead. You can see the advantage that they built up. They had a 6,000 gold lead, and it was turret after turret after turret. They didn't bother wasting time farming around the jungle. They just grouped up, went for the turret, and then they rotated around, potentially looked for a fight, and that just demonstrates how smart and how confident this whole team is. Team Secret, not only as a team, but as an organization, has been doing so much for this lineup. They told us before this weekend that they wanted to prove to their new organization that they were worthy of that support, and so far throughout this semi-finals and finals they are demonstrating just that.
I have to say, I think it's the worst kept secret of VGL.
No, I'm not giving you that one.
What? Come on. It was low hanging fruit.
Keep trying.
Admit,
maybe next time. Maybe next time.
All right. Well, I'll get there eventually. I'll eventually earn your respect with my jokes.
Maybe. Yeah.
Sasuke, returning to the game, is looking for maybe an engagement here. But the fact that Team Secret are pressuring onto Vein Crystal turrets at only 12.5 minutes is a massive deal right now. Palmatoro jumps right in, immediately bursts through it. This could be the opportunity, though, for Tsunami. Sasuke tries to go for the hook, but he's not going to find anyone. Immediately, Palmatoro and Qualifier get a kill onto Look at Me, and they just get to run away. How does that happen at 12.5 minutes, Vedius?
Confidence, teamwork, and amazing players. And that pretty much sums up Team Secret in 3 words. Palmatoro doesn't care. I talked about this at the very start of the game. He's just like, yo, boss, can I go? And Mogi's like, yeah, if you want. And so he just goes for it. He knows his team is going to back him up. He doesn't have to ask them. And he's just like, I'm going to go for this. And Mowgli is always there to back him up. It is fantastic to see. They shut down the turret. PT Lam is able to get the reflex block off, but it doesn't matter because the damage from Team Secret is too much for him to handle. And then very smartly, Team Secret don't overextend. They go back. They realize they have gold to spend. They pick up some items. Kvalifar's still sitting on top of that infusion, but they're just going to rinse and repeat and go back to what they were doing.
Well, they've only got to do it one more time in order to take the only remaining turret down that is currently standing for Snow Tsunami. If they find this turret, it's going to be such an uphill struggle for Tsunami to get back into this game. Right now, Sasuke hovering around the base platform, might be looking to get Forced Cord into it. Palmatoro rinsing and repeating just like you mentioned, jumping right onto the turret. It goes down. The Vein Crystal is exposed. They're going to try and take this one out. Team Secret, they want to get the win right here, right now. It's going to fall. Team Secret, in 14 minutes, finds themselves the first win of the Grand Finals.
And Palmatoro still doesn't die. Less than 15 minutes in, Palmatoro, always the first one to engage, always the first one to dive in, and he is 4-0-1, does not die. We talked about Qualifier being the player to watch, but Palmatoro really stole the show this game.
That was a flawless victory for the side of Team Secret, and actually something I think maybe even is more impressive. They only needed 5 kills to do it. They were dominant in every aspect of that game, on every point in the map. Rome, what did we just watch?
Well, pretty much they came in with the plan, and they executed it early. They had a very strong early game composition that they knew if they did let it drag on too long, and if that Vox did get too fed, that they would have problems around the 15-18 minute mark. So they focused on prioritizing their objectives. They made sure that they didn't rotate around the enemy jungle too much. They focused more onto that lane, and this is where it made a difference.
Man, I mean, I almost don't know what to ask, because normally there's like moments where you feel like the enemy team can come back into it. Maybe they have some kind of an edge that they can exploit. This game, Snow Tsunami just didn't. What could they have done differently? I mean, it's tough when it was such a flawless win, but Vedius, maybe some item builds, anything you've got that Snow Tsunami could take in the next game to try and improve.
Well, I feel like they need to find some way of dealing with this aggression, but with the early rotation of the Finn and the Vox, I think it gave away their strategy very early on. And as Rome was saying during the pick and ban stage, now Team Secret can just pick to deal with what has been drafted by Snow Tsunami. So now that Snow Tsunami get that priority pick and that priority ban, maybe they can come out with a stronger draft. But given how smart and how effective Team Secret played, I don't know how viable that strategy is going to be.
All right, well, I'd love to break down more of this, but I don't think there's too much more to break down, at least for the first game. So I think we should try and get into the second one. Snow Tsunami, they need to mount some kind of a comeback. Blueberries and Don John, how did you feel watching that one?
Honestly, that feels like they, as Rome said that, they had a plan, they came into it, and it, like, I have memes in my head how Mowgli is commanding the jungle together with Palmatoro and says, go, stop, go, no, yes, go. And that's how I see them in voice chat right now, honestly. And it works so perfectly because Mowgli is calling those shots on point. It's just perfect, and then you see how smart Qualifier is playing it in lane. That it's going to be very, very difficult for Snow Tsunami, and that's what I want to ask Rome. What do you think? What needs to change coming into the second match, especially for drafts, for picks and bans? What should Team Snow Tsunami focus on?
Coming to like this entire finals series between the two teams, I already gave the advantage in terms of I have a feeling that Team Secret will come out on top in every single draft pick. They just look at it so much more deeply, and in terms of game execution and how their gameplay is, their synergy seems to be like more on point. For Team Snow to actually come back into this and make their presence known, try and win this entire tournament, they have to be able to secure their comfort picks and just outplay the other team. And in regards to this, they have to concentrate on making sure that somebody is making those crazy shot calling plays. That coordination between the team has to be right. They can't just focus on either the lane or the jungle too much. Instead, they have to break out their comfort zone and make sure like the more they roam as 3, the more they pick up these fights. It could possibly like help them overturn like these game outcomes. We noticed that from both of these teams is their passive and their efficient types of gameplay. It actually slows down the action, especially a lot during the early games. You won't see too much clashes between them. They'll feel each other out and then they'll just back off.
Alright, so we are jumping into the draft, ladies and gentlemen, of this best of 5 series. The first match going to Team Secret, Snow Tsunami having the right to ban first, and they are going instantly for the Adagio ban. What does that mean? On the other hand side, by the way, we have an Arden ban, so this is the ban for the second match, Action Jackson. What does that mean? Like, Adagio's out, a key roamer is out, which is Arden. So Snow Tsunami, what are they going to pick here?
Well, it's very open. They have a lot of options. To be honest, I think I'd like to see them pick a Sky. There's a few reasons for that. So PT Lamb, we mentioned it earlier on. He's one of the big carries for that team. And he's played, I think, 5 games on Sky so far in this qualifier. That's one of the reasons why he's on these top 10 lists as one of the best players in the VGL, at least in Europe. So I think it would make a lot of sense. And it's also a contested pick regularly, so getting it early on makes sense.
Alright, we do see the first pick here coming out of Snow Tsunami, which is Koshka, so the aggressive jungle factor is actually changing sides from Team Secret to Snow Tsunami. Is that how you would think is an ideal kickoff of the draft, Rome?
I feel like they're going to approach this game differently so that they don't have that early game disadvantage in terms of that pressure that Team Secret was dishing out in the first game. But on the side of Team Secret here is, I think they're just going to stick with a passive composition. They're going to look to play as passive as possible in the early games and just outscale the other team, making sure that as long as their team plays correct, as long as their coordination is on point, their mid to late game will probably excel.
Alright, we do see Team Secret picking nothing so far, so they are still in the discussion here. My question to Vedius, looking at that Koshka now on the side from Snow Tsunami, and hearing what Rome says, what do you think? Like, what could be an opener here for Team Secret? Because they want, of course, the 2-0 and they want the 3-0 to take it all as fast as possible, as it looks for now, right?
Well, I think if you're going to be playing against the Koshka, you have to respect the early game, and so you want something that can provide some kind of threat coming into the mid game and also coming into the late game can provide that peel to keep the Koshka off your backline. So perhaps something like a Catherine to provide that big area of effect silence, along with the stun that if you go for that cooldown acceleration or the cooldown speed, you can then get a couple of stuns off onto that Koshka during the engagement and you can lock her down and provide that protection for your backline. So perhaps something like a Catherine would be quite a valuable priority for the side of Team Secret.
So we will see. They are still discussing here. Catherine, viable pick, as Vadius says. So let's take a look at what they are going to take here. For the information for the people who just tuned in, since we have over 2,000 viewers at the moment. Welcome everyone. This is Vainglory League. It is the qualifier here. The first qualifier. We have 2 qualifiers where you can collect points, and this leads ultimately to the Live Championships in London in March with a prize pool of 25,000 US dollars. So of course this is where all of them here want to go, and Mowgli is going for the Finn pick together with the Scarf pick, which I leave pretty much open for the comments from our casters and analysts while we first of all finish the draft. from Snow Tsunami, which is Vox and Catherine. So we have the full roster, Koshka, Vox and Catherine. On the other hand side, we see the Finn and Scarf, Action Jackson, Finn on the side on Team Secret. Is that already GG from the beginning?
Well, I have to admit, Mowgli's Finn has impressed me a great deal over the course of this tournament, and it's really put him in good stead with regards to many different statistics. He's actually currently ranked number 1 on top assists. He's got 100 as of the last time Fame Glory was updated, and a big part of that has been his Finn play. It's just, when you... Oh, man, I love seeing Finn so much. When you put it in the hands of someone who lands all the forced accords and those kinds of things, you can just set up plays that no other character could.
So we have, last but not least, it is a cool Rome, cool Scarf and Finn for Team Secret. Is that another draft going onto the side from Team Secret, or does Snow Tsunami have a decent draft here with Koshka, Vox and Catherine? What are your thoughts on this while we jump into the match?
Both teams actually have pretty decent compositions here. For Team Secret, what we're going to notice from them is they're going to play very passive in the jungle. Expect Mowgli to be having a lot of presence up in that lane, trying to stack up as much like barrier as he can, as much shield as he can for his laners. And on the side of Team Snow is they're going to be very aggressive in this early game jungle. They're going to try and make sure to prevent this Crow from actually being able to farm up, being able to scale up as he goes by. But towards the late game, I have to give the advantage towards Team Secret. I think that once they're able to get at least 2 tier 3 items, that their team fights are going to start turning. And being able to use Mowgli on that Finn, just to be able to force the cord, get that Vox out of position, as long as they're crucible and reflex blocking this Koshka stun, I think they're going to come out winning.
All right, well, we're going to be heading onto the fold for this second game. Currently, it looks like Team Secret haven't died at all yet in this this final series, so they might be looking to try and keep that up, Vedius.
I'd be very impressed if they don't die at all during the final game of the VGL qualifier. I want to rehash what we were talking about in Game 1 and how, as a team, they really wanted to prove to their new organization, hey, we were worth picking up. We are the best team in Europe, and we're not just the best team, we're the best team by a long way. And based off of the performance in the first game, if they can do the same in Game 2, then they have a lot of evidence to support that statement.
They absolutely do. I think you could write a paper in a scientific journal if they were able to not die, for example. That's how much evidence you'd have.
That much evidence.
Yeah.
You could write like a 10-page report and provide all sorts of stats as Palmatoro goes for the early play.
Yeah, being aggressive like we know and love, but not able to find anything quite yet. Amusingly, in my opinion, in the 3 versus 3, the Koshka team came out behind. They were jumped on, though.
Yeah, I don't want to say behind. I think that what happened was Palmatoro does what he does best and was the first to aggress in every single instance. But now, Qualifier, he's getting a bit of poke down thrown onto him. But it's Team Secret just sending a little bit of a message. They saw an opportunity to get some damage down onto PT Lam, and so they took it. But they didn't want to overcommit. They realized that they don't have that early game composition. They don't want to run the risk of giving away an early lead, and basically what happened in the last game, they don't want that to happen to themselves. So they're going to be playing a little bit more passively. They're just going to keep farming up in the jungle, and Palmatoro definitely well known throughout the winter qualifier for this Kroll pick, simply because he has been playing it a huge amount, and it just facilitates his playstyle of run onto the backline and do a bunch of damagey stuff.
I'm trying to work out what's going on in the lane right now, because Sasuke has twice ran up to Qualifier to stun him with no support from PT Lam whatsoever. And he's really not accomplishing much other than and wasting time. This time round, we've got Look At Me here as well, though. That's the Polite Company shield, but it's not enough. Palmatoro doesn't have the damage yet either. Just as I was talking about how it wasn't panning out and Qualifier wasn't going down, he managed to actually pull it off.
Well, there's the perfect game ruined for Team Secret. They had a phenomenal start to the series, but in Game 2, Snow Tsunami have said, yeah, no, that's not happening again. So with the Koshka, they go for that very aggressive play, and I feel like Team Secret were expecting it, and they wanted to get the counter gank off. They just did not respect the amount of damage that Koshka had onto Kvalifar, and he shot down way too fast for them to be able to provide the peel that Kvalifar needed to come out ahead. So, bit of disrespect from Team Secret, but it's only going to be that first blood. It's not going to be too impactful on the overall state of the game.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. They have, unfortunately, already lost the ability to go flawless, though, which I'm sure will be weighing on their minds greatly. Kvalifar, I want to touch on this guy again real quick, though. Obviously, we just saw him go down, but his Scarf play throughout the tournament has been very potent. I'm really excited to see him bringing it out in the finals.
I would say it's one of his go-to heroes, to be honest. He does often pick it when it is available, and this has actually been the composition that Team Secret have played for the majority of their games. It is this Krull and Finn in the jungle and roam positions. Combine that with the Scarf, it is a very well-rounded team composition. It scales well into the mid and late stages. Kvalifar on the Scarf provides a lot of wave clear, a lot of poke, and he's likely going to go for something like an early Frostburn so that he can peel for himself. But you also have Mowgli providing peel for the backline as well, while Palmatoro just runs onto the backline, and he's going to be focusing all of his attention onto PT Land. But Kvalifar...
Yeah, getting engaged on right off the bat with that Yummy Cannon Frenzy. He is actually making a decent dash towards the turret, but it's not going to be enough. Gloop does not save him. Mowgli, only level 3 as well, doesn't have huge shields coming out of Polite Company just yet.
I feel as though Team Secret need to start pushing their vision line up a little bit more forward, because this is the second time that Look at Me has come from that direction and has made that kind of play. You can see Kvalifar does have the reflex block available, but wasn't quite quick enough on the trigger to be able to keep himself alive, and he did use it. It did keep him alive for a relatively long amount of time, combined with the shield that Mowgli provided, but he still ended up going down. So a lot of pressure going down onto Kvalifar up in the lane, and they're just trying to shut down this big carry that Kvalifar has been for Team Secret in the past.
Makes a lot of sense to me. And also, one thing I want to point out is that the kills aren't just going on to Look at Me. So quite frequently when you're running in a really early game aggressor like Koshka, they get all the kills, and then later on in the game you don't have enough gold on your carry. But this time they've split the kills between PT Lamb and Look at Me. So PT Lamb will actually hit those spikes at reasonable periods of time in the game.
He certainly will. I imagine he's going to go for a very early alternating current. Have a look up in the lane. Once again, Snow Tsunami going for the play.
It's deja vu, but this time Kvalifar does a great job of reflex blocking that initial stun. No Yummy Cannon Frenzy for another 5 seconds. I feel like maybe Snow Tsunami should have waited those 5 seconds before they went in.
I feel Kvalifar needs to be a little bit more careful in terms of his wave management. He always seems to be on the Snow Tsunami's half of the lane, and Mowgli isn't in the lane as much as we expected. You heard Rome talking about it during the pre-game on how he expects Mowgli to just be hanging around Kvalifar, doing what he can to try and provide him with some support, but he's actually spent a lot of time moving with Palmatoro, trying to control vision on their half of the map, and going for a few cheeky invades a few cheeky objective steals with that gold miner that haven't really panned out.
I have to agree with you there. That said, we've just seen the minion mine captured for the side of Team Secret. Palmatoro grabbed that one. Having gotten those minions, they might be able to utilize that slight strength of the minions to maybe go for the gold mine, find some kind of early advantage here, because at the moment they are sitting firmly behind in gold by about 2,000.
That's not too bad though, given the early game composition that a Koshka does provide. But Team Secret do need to be careful. They can't afford to have this gold gap build any further than what it already is. And I think that to prevent that, you can see them posturing around the gold mine. They don't want to give this away. It's a very big objective. It's pretty much fully stacked at this point. So whichever team secures it is going to get 300 gold. And Team Secret want to be the team to get that for themselves.
They absolutely do. Goldmine is pulled into the Tribush for the side of Snow Tsunami, but not by their own volition. That was a scout trap of Mowgli's that pulled that one off. Now he's doing the opposite. The gold miner's just getting irritated by scout traps at the moment.
Yeah, and you can really see that this second game is significantly turned down compared to what we saw in game one. But I really like the fact that Snow Tsunami, even with the early game composition, aren't blindly going for that gold miner, because they still have to respect the damage that Palmatoro can have, because he's had pretty much a free lane, as look at me, going for a play onto Mowgli.
Not sure if that's the right target, though. Mowgli's actually pretty tanky already. He's only going to take about half of his health in the brunt of that aggressive play from Snow Tsunami, and Palmatoro is nearby now. Does have access to from Hell's Heart if he wants to find some kind of an engagement, but it looks like he's going to play it safe for now.
I think Team Secret need to wait for Mowgli to hit that level 6 mark, because compared to Sosiska, who has already got her ultimate now on Catherine, I think fight should heavily go in the favor as Palmatoro gets collapsed on.
Oh, this is a bad spot for him to be in. He's taking a lot of damage right off the bat. Not even trying to run away, just put down damage at the moment. Got Qualifier roaming, trying to maybe help out Mowgli right now, but everyone is very healthy on the side of Snow Tsunami. It's a little bit risky to move down like this. Looks like Snow Tsunami is going to get that third kill uncontested.
Mad props to Snow Tsunami right there. They shoved the lane up, they then rotated down with the gold spike, but hang on a second, Qualifier, he needs to be careful.
Is going to block that engagement with the reflex block. Gloop goes down to buy him some more time, but PT Lamb going to Sonic zoom in, nearly finds it. Look at me, is going to get the kill. He actually gets it onto Mowgli as well. He's stunned up, but not in range of the turret. Can Palmatoro get the smite he's looking for? Yes, first kill picked up of the game for Team Secret, and Palmatoro wants more. Saska, a little bit too tanky for him to find, though. Very nice fight for Snow Tsunami, but a little bit of over-aggression right at the end.
The thing is for Team Secret is why they overstayed was because they knew that if Snow Tsunami decided to go for that gold miner, then Snow Tsunami may have been able to use the gold miner to their advantage and come out ahead in a fight. And they actually prevented the gold miner from going over to Snow Tsunami, which I think is a great thing for them, because now once they get to this mid-game point that they're very quickly reaching, they're going to be able to contest it and they're going to have that control over the bottom half of the jungle. So I do like the play from Snow Tsunami. I think they can afford to give away these few kills in the early game. The thing that concerns me the most is how quickly PT Lamb is beginning to ramp up. He's completed the alternating current, he's already got the reflex block, and he's sitting at 2-0 and 2. So really setting himself up to be the carry of this second game in this best of 5 series.
Big item pickup right now for Look At Me, just getting that Fountain of Renewal. Going to really help, especially considering the 3-man group of Team Secret currently moving down into the jungle. Mowgli might be fishing for a Forced Accord sometime soon, but you got to be careful about bringing those very aggressive members of Snow Tsunami onto your back line. I think it was a sensible decision not to go for that one, but having a presence around the gold mine, a good plan for Team Secret.
So Qualifier now using that great wave.
Here we
pit.
go.
The cord comes out.
Two people dragged right into the Dragon's Breath of Qualifier, but it gets canceled. Here's the yummy catnip frenzy. Look At Me wants more here. Palmatoro gonna try and run away, gets back to the turret, but a huge fight for Snow Tsunami. They did not even flinch there.
So Team Secret get a great Forced Accord onto both PT Lamb and Sosiska, but PT Lamb, with his high mobility on this Vox, is very easily able to disengage and reposition so that Sosiska becomes the front line and PT Lamb can just do the damage from the back line. He got a beautiful 3-man wait for it onto the entire lineup of Team Secret, which set up for the silence, and then Sosiska was able to get a follow-up silence off the back of that. So there was nothing that Team Secret could do as the moment Look At Me joined the fight and started to clean things up. Very well executed fight from Snow Tsunami. It looked very calm, very collected, and off the back of that they've gained a massive amount of control over the map.
Yeah, and a massive amount of gold too. They're about 3,000 in the lead, which is pretty substantial for the point in the game they are at. Not quite as substantial as the lead Team Secret had last game, but that was a bit of a special case. I'm a little bit concerned with Palmatoro, and I want to talk about him for a second, because he aggressed there. That was a fight that Team Secret did not have to take. He went in, he threw from Hell's Heart out, and bit off more than he could chew. There was no way that they were going to win that fight. So do you think maybe he's just being a bit too aggressive because he thinks he can pull this off, or is he being aggressive because Mowgli's telling him to? What's going on right now? Why are these plays happening?
I think in that situation it was Mowgli that decided to make the play. He was the one that threw out the Forced Accord. He was the one that went for the play because he felt like the Team Secret were in the positional advantage. So I don't want to put too much emphasis onto Palmatoro because Mowgli is the shot caller for Team Secret. I imagine that he was the one that decided to make that play, and it just didn't work out because they didn't respect how quickly PT Lam could reposition and suddenly start doing damage from the backline. So I think that it was just a slight misplay from Team Secret, but given how talented the roster is and given how great their teamwork is, I imagine that come the mid-game, once they hit that 15-minute mark, and I'm just looking across the items now, they're slowly beginning to reach those big power spikes, they may very well be able to turn things around. The biggest thing that concerns me is this Vox, and how well Vox does at kiting out this the Kroll pick. We've seen it time and time again, and unless you really have an Arden supporting the Kroll, you really are just going to get kited out by that Vox.
Oh wow, look at me picking up an Atlas Pauldron right now, on top of that fountain he had earlier. Gonna be very tanky while still doing a respectable amount of damage as a Koshka. You expect that, but I feel like it's really gonna hurt Palmatoro having his attack speed slowed so much.
It certainly is, but you would imagine that ideally Palmatoro is going to avoid Look At Me at all costs, and Palmatoro, Look At Me likely just going to go for that to assist in terms of being the front line. They're slowly transitioning into a setup where PT Lam becomes the carry for Snow Tsunami, and Look At Me is just going to be a nuisance, somebody who can just sit onto that Qualifier and basically make his life hell. But right now, Snow Tsunami aggressively moving up into Team Secret's jungle, trying to get some vision control down because they know that the gold mine is going to be proccing, and they just want to make sure that they guarantee that payout as the Kraken does come onto the fold.
Qualifier playing pretty far up. Oh, the Crucible actually burned, even though he wasn't in position to land that Forced Accord. There's a Quibble. It's overdriven. Look at me taking a lot of damage this time around. Qualifier doesn't go down on the backside, but Palmatoro is very low. He's sustaining up. He gets the shield. Mowgli miles off with that Quibble, but Qualifier wants more. He finds the second kill onto Sasuke. There's the Spitfire. Qualifier finds the third. It's an ace for Team Secret.
And I was talking about how talented these guys are at playing these team fights, but Qualifier with the clutch reflex block just before the Yummy Catnip Frenzy came out also protected himself from the stun that came out from Catherine, which meant that he could move into the backline, position in a way that he could get all of his damage down, and he got a full channel of the Dragon's Breath down onto the front line of Snow Tsunami. It was a beautiful play from Qualifier. Palmatoro was also sitting on the backline, preventing PT Lam from getting the damage down that he needed to do. It was looking a little bit scary because PT Lam was doing a huge amount of damage, but then Qualifier being the hero, getting the damage down with the Frostburn and the Broken Myth. But speaking of Qualifier,
does manage to reflex block the Yummy Catnip Frenzy, but he's taking a decent amount of damage and putting a decent amount back. That's a nice Forced Accord coming out of Mowgli as well, buying time for Qualifier to just keep on poking out his opponents. The Dragon's Breath is going to proc Sasuke in a bit of a bad spot here. Palmatoro finally reinforcing the fight. Sasuke goes down from Hell's Heart. They want to keep this fight going on. PT Lam under the turret going to fall. That's 2 kills for none. Team Secret, they're going to find a turret here.
In a 2 versus 3, Team Secret are able to prevent Snow Tsunami from finding the engage that they wanted, and Qualifier once again with a beautiful reflex block. This guy is on top of it in this game. In the early stages, a lot of aggression was put down onto him, but he has come back into this beautifully. He hasn't allowed that weak early game to affect his mid-game presence, and now he is having so much of an impact in these fights. Palmatoro wasn't even there at the start of that, which meant that he still had his ultimate available. Once he decided to re-engage the fight, they were able to lock down Satiska, lock down PT Lam, and secure themselves the first turret of the game.
Very well played by them. Something to highlight here, it was 7-1 in kills, it is now 7-6. So a very nice performance in the recent stages of the game out of Team Secret. And on top of that, we're actually seeing the gold closed to within about 500 or 600. So they've done a great job of coming back into this one. They are now beginning to look very strong. And with Kraken spawned, another fight like that could be devastating for Snow Tsunami. That said, Qualifier, got to be careful moving up on the front line like this.
Have a look at the infusions that have been picked up for PT Lam as well as Qualifier, but neither have actually gone towards the side. Oh, actually, look at me, currently sitting on top of an infusion himself. Wouldn't be surprised to see Palmatoro maybe go, and there it is. So both teams grabbing those infusions, realizing that a fight is likely to be happening in the nearby future. as well as that Mowgli now completed the Warhorn, means that fights for Team Secret can be started whenever they want. And you can see that right now, Mowgli positioning very aggressively because Team Secret feeling very confident. There's the Warhorn.
They did get spotted out there. Forced Accord not going to land. Crucible popped as well, though. Although, actually, in this stage of the game, wow, it's actually a longer cooldown than the Forced Accord. So Mowgli is going to have that up pretty soon. Looking for the Polite Company. PT Lamb locked up here. That's a lot of damage. You see Qualifier, he's jumped on, but look at me, he's fallen off by this point. He can't burst him down. From Hell's Heart comes across. Palmatoro, he wants more. Polite Company keeps him in. There's a Yummy Catnip Frenzy, but Palmatoro is just doing a great job of staying alive, even whilst diving that turret. Qualifier, meanwhile, finds the kill onto Sasuke, and the turret or the Kraken are both great options for Team Secret right now.
I think they're going to go for the Kraken. There are pretty long death timers right now on top of Snow Tsunami, and this objective is going to be relatively easy to take. And given how Team Secret feel confident that they can take every single fight that Snow Tsunami put them into, there's no reason not to start breaking down onto the base of Snow Tsunami. Team Secret are just so confident in going for these engagements. Notice how they collapse so quickly onto PT Lamb. They didn't even give him an opportunity to move, given how quickly they shut him down. Look at me, wasn't allowed to have any impact, and now you're starting to see the risk that you run when you put all this emphasis onto a single hyper carry in the form of Vox, especially against this Kroll pick.
I've got to agree with you there. This is a real important moment for Snow Tsunami. I want to highlight that. If they can't defend this push, they're in a bad spot. Look at me, is going to try and go in here, but he's gone in maybe too deep. Qualifier finds a lot of damage onto him. Palmatoro as well is doing a nice job, but look at that. Very nice by PT Lamb. He finds 2 kills. Palmatoro is silenced, but he's got a lot of damage. A smite would find the kill. He doesn't even need it. Sasuke now, the only member standing for Tsunami, and Palmatoro has a lot of damage. Can Sasuke do anything here? He has very little energy, very little chance of getting away, and in the meantime, the Kraken is doing so much damage onto the base. Palmatoro, look at this, just wailing on Sasuke. He's gonna go for the smite very soon. Oh, not quite getting it. He finds the kill, and the Kraken, in the meantime, picks up a turret. That was a bad fight for Tsunami, but a better one than I expected them to have.
Yeah, PT Lamb was able to survive long enough in that fight to actually get the damage down onto multiple members of Team Secret, and that's what made things look so bad, because Qualifier actually fell very early in the engagement, but then Palmatoro stepped up. He was like, it's okay, Qualifier, you can take a nap right now, I've got this, and in a 2 versus 1, he's able to secure himself 2 kills, while the Kraken secures Team Secret another turret, propelling them even further into the lead. The score now 11-9 in Team Secret's favor. They've got a 1.5k gold lead. The question is now, are they going to continue to have fights like that? Because if PT Lamb is free to do the damage on the backline, you can see how Snow Tsunami can easily come back into this game.
There's definitely a real possibility of it, and, you know, now with the gold lead on Team Secret, any more fights like that is going to net a lot of gold for the side of Snow Tsunami, but at the same time, they've conceded a ton of pressure on the map. Only 2 turrets left standing, no Kraken as an option for them to even contest or fight around. So it's going to be all down to the positioning in these fights, whether they can take down Qualifier like before. How are they going to pull that one off, Thaddeus?
So the big thing here is that it is Snow Tsunami that are the ones engaging the fight, because what we've seen is whatever team decides to press the go button is often the team that comes out ahead. Now, Snow Tsunami, Team Secret have been playing these fights very, very well, and that is because PT Lamb, I feel, isn't quite getting the peel that he really needs to. Now that the Crucible has been picked up for Sasiska, that might change as Snow Tsunami are looking to make the aggressive ones.
They have put the side of Team Secret in a bit of an awkward spot right now. They're going to try and charge in here with the Warhorn. That's going to be the silence burned a little bit early, maybe from Sasiska. Wait for it, doesn't land on the right targets. Qualifier doing a great job of kiting around that bush. Palmatoro is low. Can he sustain back up here? He's looking for the damage with that smite. Doesn't manage to pick up the kill, but does a decent chunk. Qualifier, he's untouched though. The first kill goes down. PT Lamb very low. There's the second triple kill. Qualifier finds every single member, and with 50-second death timers, this could be big for Team Secret.
Oh, Mowgli, once again proving why he is the Finn God. That forced accord was beautiful from him, dragging 3 members of Snow Tsunami back into his warm
big bear hug to prevent them from collapsing onto Qualifier, which meant that Snow Tsunami had to put all of their attention down onto Palmatoro, and Qualifier was free to do as much damage as he wanted onto the backline. Team Secret once again with a beautifully played team fight. They're going to take game 2 of this best of 5 series.
Such impressive performance from them yet again. We've seen great plays out of this team both games. Snow Tsunami, they've got their back against the wall right now. They will come second in the tournament if they cannot pull it back. Let's bring Rome back on for a little bit more analysis. We might not have too many more chances to hear from you.
Well, overall, we saw how Team Secret executed out their later skill and composition. And this is where I think Snow Tsunami could have taken more of an advantage. We're looking at, look at me on that Koshka. Like, although they did get the lane twice early in the game, like from levels 6 to 8, I didn't see so much pressure coming out of them. And this is where the exact same time that they start to really spike off. And had they have taken putting more pressure on the other jungle, they would have prevented Palmatoro on that cruel to just farm so freely. We saw his item builds, especially going against a double CP composition. He was building Shiver Steel, he was building Boots, he was building Aegis, and this is pretty much the core items that he needs to be able to sustain through these fights. A couple of things that Team Secret will probably work on in this next match is they noticed a couple of times in the early game where they shouldn't have engaged on the enemy team, especially based on how passive their composition is. When we saw Team Snow jumping onto them, the reflex blocks came off and then they engaged. And this is exactly when the fight started turning. Overall, I think both of these teams have something that they're going to go into this third match working on. But Snow Tsunami has to win this or they're out of the picture.
That they are, and it's a difficult spot to be in for any team. Vedius, you used to play competitively back in the day in some other games. You can, I'm sure, speak to a little bit of the mental strain that they're going through. What's going through your head in the kind of spot that Snow Tsunami are in right now?
So when you're playing in a best of 5 series, each game as a new one. Right now, for Team Secret, they're probably not thinking, oh, we only need one more game. It's simply a matter of, okay, guys, let's reset. This is the first game of the series. Let's take it as seriously as we've taken every other game, and we cannot afford right now to be too overconfident or too risky with the plays. Moving to the side of Snow Tsunami, they might be feeling a little bit more pressure, given it depends on how much experience they have in these best of 5 scenarios. But they still have the opportunity for the reverse sweep. We saw this in the North American Championship with Liberation X, and all they have to do is highlight the mistakes that they've made so far, and given how much they adapted from game 1 into game 2, I think that there's every possibility for them to bring something out in game 3.
All right, I got time for one more quick question. Rome, I want to ask you about the Aftershock on Palmatoro. It's a little bit of an unorthodox item for a Crow to pick up. What's the deal with that pickup?
He was going like a very hybrid core build that pretty much depends on how long he's able to sustain for. Having that extra cooldown, getting that lifesteal, put on top of that, he's getting breaking point stacks. So the way that Palmatoro was building this Crow was to be able to do as much damage as he can over time. And that's exactly what he did. We saw so many times where he was on the brink of death and just using that smite, just making sure that he gets into that picture, taking so much aggro so that Qualifier had like free roam in terms of positioning himself, shooting off his skill shots. And this is where Team Secret plays so well. The positioning and the team coordination is top notch.
All right, well, thank you very much for that insight. I'm going to pass it back over to the guys in Germany as we get into picks and bans for what could be the final game of this qualifier. It's been exciting so far. I'm sure it will be in the future. Don John, Blueberries, how are you feeling about this next game?
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, what a match here. What a final match. Team Secret coming super, super strong into this.
We might be having a few issues on the side there of the VGL guys over in Germany. So, Rome, I'm curious to see what you think about the fact, and this is an interesting one, the fact that now we actually, because it's a best of 5, not a best of 3, have the side of Team Secret returning to Team A and getting the first ban. Do you think that will maybe change things moving into this final pick and ban?
I think overall, Team Secret has such a big advantage in terms of their drafting. And this is where like I should really lean on to them to win the finals. Their drafting is really good, but how they execute their compositions is a lot better. First game, they went aggressive and they executed so well. Second game, they went passive. And although they suffered a bit in the early game, they came back and they made sure that they made the right plays, they bought the right items. But to throw us into the draft picks, let's throw it back to the guys in Germany.
Yeah, thank you very much. What a game here. Team Secret coming super strong into this best of 5 finals. And as we jump into the draft, we have the bans here. Team Secret now banning first, and they are going for a Black Feather ban. Whereas, look at me, the captain of Team Snow is going to reply Arden. So no Black Feather, no Arden. That opens pretty much all possibilities here, Rome, doesn't it?
Taking out the seeing the Black Feather being gone, seeing the Arden being gone, I'm pretty sure that Look at Me and Team Snow are going to try and secure themselves a stronger early game composition like they did last game. But this time around, they're going to make sure that they're focusing more on that pressure and they're making sure the other team is starving in that jungle.
Alright, so we do see here the Adagio pick from Mowgli right away. Whereas, look at me, they are taking that Finn together with the Koshka. What do we think of that? I mean, I don't know. It still opens the cool to Team Secret. They have the Adagio. They try to kind of like outpick somehow that Finn together with the Koshka. But does that work, Rom? Do you think it will?
With the Koshka and the Finn, I doubt that they're actually going to play this in the jungle. I feel like Koshka is very strong in the early game, but because of her mobility and how fast she has access to the enemy team, pairing her up with a Finn doesn't actually make too much sense in terms of team coordination during and hero prioritization. So there is a chance that we might be seeing this Koshka run up in lane. Otherwise, in the jungle, I feel like they won't have enough pressure to make large advances towards the Team Secret jungle.
Alright, Mowgli is calling out that Castrol together with Catherine, so they have a couple of stuns here on their team, whereas Snow Tsunami, they feel still comfortable with that Sky. They are going for it together with Koshka and Finn, looking at this here as the final pick. Rome, what are your last thoughts very quick before we jump into this next game? It could be the very end of this best of 5 finals. Do you think it will be, and if so, why?
With this team composition coming out of Team Secret, we can expect this Catherine to actually make more of an impact in this game. Look at her to always be in those front lines, getting that heal and buff coming out of Adagio alongside with Kestrel's poke in the back. I think she's going to be able to secure quite a bit of kills. On the other side, we're going to see this Sky, and I think they're going to go double CP, but most likely Sky will perhaps opt out and get a breaking point. And with this transaction, how this plays out, they will need to get into that late game. Hopefully, Koshka will be able to secure, balance out the jungle in the early game and make sure they don't fall behind.
All right.
But we'll throw it to the guys. Oh.
Yep, that being said, I just wanted to throw it to the guys as well. Thank you, Rome, for your last thoughts here. Action Jackson and Vedios with the third match of this best of 5 series. Team Secret versus Snow Tsunami.
All right, thanks very much, guys. Vedius, you and me have had the pleasure of casting a lot of games in this qualifier, but I have to admit this is the one I've been very excited for over the course of the last evening. I've been prepping for it, and I could not have anticipated the outstanding performance coming out of Team Secret. They've looked so convincing. Do you think that Snow Tsunami can pull this back? You know, they've got the Sky this time on PT Lamb. They've got some stuff going for them. Is it going to be enough?
Well, it could be. I know that's a bit of a cop-out answer. It's a bit of a cop-out answer. But the thing is, for me, it's just Team Secret. They've been playing so well. They really have been super decisive. Their teamwork has been phenomenal. And even though PT Lamb is going to be on this Sky, where he has had some phenomenal performances, I'm not convinced that it's going to be enough. I think that Qualifier, Palmatoro, and Mowgli are just such a fantastic team that there's going to be very little that Snow Tsunami can do to really change things up. And if I just compare the two junglers, so far I feel that Palmatori has been straight up outclassing Look at Me in this series.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. Right now, we've got a gank coming in the top lane. Saska taking a decent chunk of damage. Qualifier, we talked about his Scarf last game. I want to talk about his Adagio, though, for a second, because we've seen him play this before. It is so devastating in terms of the amount of damage it can put out in the early game, and so devastating in terms of the support it can put out late game. It's one of the few characters in Vainglory that I would argue is just pretty much equally relevant, although for different reasons, in all stages of the game. I'm kind of surprised that Snow Tsunami let it through the picks again.
Well, it
at
surprises me as well during the initial play, or during the draft, hang on a second, as Mowgli needs to be... He's going for a play on the Sasiska.
Whoa, look at those Glimmer shots. Mowgli actually finds the kill. First blood in the third game, going the way of Team Secret. They might look for more as well, as Look at Me is miles out of position, deep in enemy territory. The Glimmer shots are coming through. Mowgli is doing a bit of burn damage with his shield right now. 1 or 2 more Glimmer shots would do it, but Mowgli, he's like, nah, man, this is mine. I'm the real carry here.
Well, game 1, it was Palmatoro being the carry. Game 2, it was Qualifier being the big carry. And now game 3, Mowgli's like, okay, guys, you've had your time in the Lilac. It's now my turn to show why Team Secret has 3 carries in the lineup. Picking himself up 2 very early kills is exactly what Team Secret need to kick off this early game when they have more of the scathing composition. Yes, you're going to have Palmatoro going for this weapon build, Kestrel, but when you have the support from an Adagio, you're going to be so much more relevant in the mid game where Team Secret are going to look to take advantage of. And when you put a Koshka behind, her early game relevance is just going to be that much weaker. So this just comes back to what I was saying when comparing Look at Me to Palmatoro. In terms of that early game dominance, Look at Me just hasn't been able to keep up with the pressure that Palmatoro can put down.
He's trying to right now, though, jumping onto Qualifier. Look at the return damage right back onto him. PT Lamb in a bit of a tough spot as well. Glimmer shots coming through. It's not quite enough. PT Lamb just barely getting out by the skin of his teeth.
He certainly is, and very clutch plays from Snow Tsunami. Only just being able to get out of that very close exchange.
Look at me. He is in a very tough spot. Again, the Glimmer shot not quite doing the damage. Sasuke is very low as well, but Palmatoro can't risk diving that turret. He doesn't have the energy for more Glimmer shots. But with forcing them off of the turret, they might go for some early damage onto it.
This is great, though, for Team Secret. No, they don't secure themselves any more kills, but they get a lot of damage down onto the turret, and Kestrel is able to steal away the entire jungle of Snow Tsunami, and that is phenomenal. You and I have spoken about in the past the importance of this jungle, because in terms of early game, the experience that taking away those back camps denies, along with the surprising amount of gold that they give, I would argue is often more valuable than securing these early kills. And you can already see a massive gold difference starting to develop as Mowgli goes for the initiation.
Tries to find the stun onto Sasuke, who cannot be stunned as he is playing Finn, so that didn't pan out as well as it maybe could have, but even still, you can see Team Secret coming out big in terms of the health differentials off the back of that exchange. They're doing a good job. Palmatoro jumped on over the wall, though. He's taking a lot of damage. The Quibble lands. That's massive. Look at me, nearly able to get away. There's the Polite Company. He is able to get away. Team Secret concede a kill.
Well, Qualifier wasn't quite able to back up the aggressive tendency of Palmatoro, and this is the first time that we've actually seen Palmatoro not quite have the support that he's used to having, so that Kestrel being a little bit too aggressive ends up being punished for it, and Snow Tsunami end up getting themselves a kill back onto the board.
They do indeed, but they got to be careful not to give any more away. Sasuke landing a lot of great quibbles right now is the deciding factor, I feel like, in these exchanges. It does so much damage just on its base values without any scaling that in the early game, 1 or 2 key quibbles can make the difference between whether you win a fight or you lose one. Right now, though, Sasuke and Look at Me, they got to get out of that bush, get out of here. Palmatoro is very, very strong at the moment.
Certainly is. Have a look at this. At Qualifier right now, rushing both the alternating current alongside the reflex block, definitely showing a lot of respect to that Yummy Catnip Frenzy on Look at Me. 0-1-1 right now, but still values that high stun duration that you can't afford to be getting yourself stuck in this early on into the game. So I like the respect, and you even see a reflex block coming out from Palmatoro as well, and I think this is something that people watching the stream should take note of, because if you're going up against a Koshka, you should aim towards that early reflex block.
You definitely should, and it's one of the reasons why I lose games when I play Vainglory, because I'm not as good as these guys. I like to get the early damage. I feel like that'll work out, and it never does.
What are you talking about? Damage is always the best thing to go for in the early
Well, I mean, I
game.
guess Kashka can't kill you if she's dead, right?
Exactly. That's the logic that you want to be sticking with, and pro players, they don't like early damage. They like to be safe. Hang on, speaking of damage...
Look at me jumping in here, immediately gets turned on. See the two-man quibble, but onto the tankier members. So Sasuke doesn't find the damage he's looking for. The gold miner goes down in favor of Team Secret, and actually PT Lamb in a bit of a dicey position right here. If Palmatoro catches him,
oh, he does find him. PT Lamb, this could be bad. He's going to try and get away from here, but he's used Forward Barrage already. That's a large portion of his ability to fight gone. Mowgli comes in, going to be looking for the stun. PT Lamb, can he get away? Lots of damage, just able to Surrey strike back. Mowgli takes a lot, trying to block with the camps. There's the one-shot, one kill. It lands. Mowgli, he finds himself his third kill of the game.
very nice work by him. He's got all of the money on the side of Team Secret this game.
Mowgli definitely the one with money in the bank, and he's the one securing all these kills because he's the one doing all the work. You think Palmatoro was the guy that was really doing the damage? No, it was thanks to Mowgli's decisive shot calling and securing of the final blow that matters as Team Secret look to siege onto this turret.
They do find it very quickly, and Sasuke might have overstayed here along with Look at Me. Look at the damage the silence comes through. That's 2 kills. PT Lamb gets back just a fraction too late to do anything to help his team. 5-1 right now. It's only 8 minutes in, but there's a 2.7k gold lead on Team Secret.
Vedius, they want to close this one out. They want to go 3-0 in the finals.
Team Secret are just so versatile in the compositions that they play. Game 1, they had heavy early game composition, and they closed the game out in 14 minutes. Game 2, they have more of a scaling composition that relies very heavily on teamfight prowess, and they end up securing that one as well, when the kill score was 7-1 in favor of Snow Tsunami. And now in Game 3, they have a mix between an early to mid game composition, and they are still taking advantage of that as well. These guys are just so versatile, so flexible in what they can pull out, and they are really demonstrated why they are one of, if not the best team in Europe.
This is why having a deep champion pool, or hero pool rather, matters so much in a competitive game like this. And for you guys at home, it's going to matter to you soon as draft mode is coming into Vainglory. I'm super psyched for that. But right now, back to this game. Team Secret, they're pushing quite heavily at the moment. Look at me. Worth mentioning, he doesn't really have anything aggressive right now. He's not going to do a lot of damage if he finds anyone caught out here. Mowgli running point, looking for some kind of engagement. Force to core doesn't land. That is 59 seconds, 60 seconds rather.
That Sasuke does not have that ability. Here comes the last verse. Gonna get a stun onto several members. Qualifier, very low death from above, actually is going to find it, and Palmatoro's got to be careful here. He's got a lot of damage, though. Look at me, finds the Yummy Catnip Frenzy, but the forward barrage is blocked by Mowgli. PT Lamb goes down. Palmatoro, he's looking for the one-shot, one kill, doesn't find it, but it doesn't matter. 2 for 1, and a turret picked up for Team Secret.
Team Secret once again demonstrating their phenomenal teamfight prowess and the ability to kite around the very aggressive PT Lamb and Look at Me. They tried their very best to get onto Palmatoro, but thanks to the peel that Mowgli was consistently providing, Palmatoro stayed alive long enough to get the damage down that they need to secure themselves the teamfight victory. Yes, Qualifier did end up going down, but he was able to get the majority of his damage off before he fell, and that was the most important factor in that fight. PT Lamb had to invest so many of his resources just to secure that kill that he had nothing left to follow up onto Palmatoro when he was still alive. Great fight from Team Secret. They're going to maintain control over the gold mine. They're going to secure themselves another turret, and right now they are once again in full control of this game.
This could be another 14-minute win for Team Secret if they keep applying the pressure the way they have been. If Sasuke can't land the forced accords the way he hasn't been. Look at this, Team Secret, not even focusing on global objectives right now. They're going right for the base. The damage is massive out of Palmatoro. Mowgli stunned up under that turret, though. Gonna dive in here with the forced accord, finding that kill. Qualifier and Palmatoro, can they turn this one around? Look at me, dives on the back, but he doesn't get the kill, and the glimmer shots just keep on coming. Palmatoro, he has so much damage right now. PT Lamb, he pops the reflex block, he dodges the one-shot, one kill, but the turret's going to fall. 1 kill for a turret, I'd take that trade any day, Vedius.
Team Secret are just so good. Even though Mowgli ends up getting dragged under the tower, that was a slight mispositioning from him because he committed just a little bit too much for that turret. But Team Secret are able to kite back around from the fight. Palmatoros repositions himself over the wall to just consistently land these glimmer shots, and there's no way for Snow Tsunami to get any kind of vision on top of him, so they can't focus him down. So all of the attention goes down onto Qualifier. He's going to keep healing himself up, which is also going to apply the Arcane Fire to the lineup of Snow Tsunami, combine that with the Agent of Wrath and the alternating current, combined with the Shatter Glass that he's got as well, results in Qualifier also packing an insane punch, which secures them a kill, a turret, and it's just going to further the gold lead that they have already been able to accumulate.
And it's a substantial gold lead, about 6,000 right now. They've managed to get themselves a humongous amount. Look at me, stunned up. There's a damage from Palmatoro. He's going in, trying to put it down onto Look at Me. A Fountain of Renewal, I believe, may have even... Oh, no, sorry, it wasn't the Fountain of Renewal. I was noticing the burn damage from Qualifier. My bad. But in any case, Look at Me is going to have to be careful here. He's backing up, trying to heal on the Fountain. Lamb looking to clear with that forward barrage. Polite Company brings Qualifier a little bit closer. Sasuke might be looking for that Forced Accord. Is there a Crucible? Not yet. Qualifier is hooked in. There's going to be the Yummy Catnip Frenzy, but a great silence out of Mowgli. Huge damage. Palmatoro landing glimmer shots onto every single member, but it's hard to fight in the base when they can just go heal up. Look at me. He goes down anyway. Qualifier leading the charge right now. Mowgli, Polite Company keeps him close, but not close enough. PT Lamb is just too far behind. There are the glimmer shots. He's got to pop the reflex block. Mowgli, he's going to go for the turret. They've got their eyes on the prize right now for Team Secret. I'm having deja vu, Vedius. This is exactly what they did in Game 1.
Team Secret are just so objective focused that all they'll do in team fights is kite back and forth, and when they realize that they've poked their opponents out enough, then they'll concentrate on taking down that turret. Once they've got it, they're just like, okay guys, we're happy, let's disengage, let's not stress about this, and let's just recollect ourselves, spend the gold that we've got, and then look to take the next turret in the next engagement. That was so many tiny plays that really swung the fight in Team Secret's favor. The first one was the silence that came out from Mowgli to interrupt the Yummy Catnip Frenzy from Look at Me, and the second was the active camo from Palmatoro that secured a two-man stun onto both Look at Me and PT Lamb. The tiny micro plays that were made by the individuals of Team Secret really demonstrate not only their phenomenal teamwork prowess, but how individually skilled they are, and really impressive stuff from this team.
Very, very impressive stuff. And I have to admit, Team Secret, they made like the best bet ever picking these guys up. I can only see them doing great things. But there's a long way to go. Qualifier, he is going to be stunned up by the Yummy Catnip Frenzy. Decent damage turned back onto him, but not enough. Look at me, he's still alive. Somehow the Fountains of Renewal keeping him there. Qualifier, he turns and finds the kill. Palmatoro is untouched on the back line, trying to find PT Lamb right now, but the forward barrage does a decent chunk. Is it going to be enough? Mowgli nearly goes down. Sasuke's still healthy. Palmatoro falls. Snow Tsunami, they managed to win a fight 2-for-1.
And they won it because of minions! The minions got in the way of the glimmer shots of Palmatoro, and that prevented him from being able to clean up the fight. Who would have thought that coming into the late game, it ends up being the minions that turn the fight in Snow Tsunami's favor? But if Mowgli has anything to say about it, that might not be completely true.
His damage is substantially higher than I expected it to be. You got to be careful about hitting him right now if you look at me. Oh, the snipe comes through. One shot, one kill. Palmatoro's got your back, buddy. This could be the Kraken going the way of Team Secret.
So a little bit too overextended from Sasuke. He completely forgot about the long-range ultimate from Palmatoro, and that snipe allows Team Secret to have the numbers advantage, and this could be the opportunity they have been looking for to close out this game. 16 minutes in, 11-5 in favor of Team Secret. They've got the Kraken, they've got the gold lead, and they're looking to close out this third and final game.
They've got literally all of the tools they need to do this. I think it would be amazing if the side of Snow Tsunami could defend this push, but they're going to try and do it. They're actually positioning for a bit of an ambush here on the side. Palmatoro gets stunned up,
and knocked in, but is it going to be enough? Death from above onto 3. Look at the AoE coming out of PT Lamb. Palmatoro's down. Qualifier, I don't think he's got enough damage to turn the fight around here. He's actually being collapsed on. He's trying to find PT Lamb. He gets it. I was proven wrong right after I said it, Vedius. Qualifier with a double kill. The Kraken pushing the base. 24 seconds on 2 members of Snow Tsunami. This is going to be game. Your champions for the first qualifier are the side of Team Secret. They are going to be vainglorious.
And all I'm concentrating on is Mowgli in his epic 1v1 battle against Sasiska, because their fight isn't over yet as Qualifier looks to end the game with the Kraken. And Kestrel gets the snipe to end the game, end the series, and secure themselves first place in the European qualifier. Fantastic stuff from this Team Secret team.
Holy moly, what a way to end the series if you're Palmatoro. You're like, we did it, guys! Boom, headshot, finishes it up in style. Rome, we're going to bring you back for one last time for Europe for this first qualifier. Team Secret, did they overperform your expectations? Did Snow Tsunami underperform? Could you have seen this 3-0 coming?
I actually, coming into this series, I did favor Team Secret for the majority part. I felt like Team Snow wasn't able to play out their compositions right. They had a lot of occasions where they grabbed the early game comps in the jungle, they grabbed that early game in the lane, but they never made anything like come out from this. This is something that they do have to work on in the future. Unlike, you're looking at Team Secret, who's always getting ahead during these draft picks, they're playing every single comp differently to how it's supposed to be played. And this is something that is well deserving of the EU champions. Going into like the next season, next qualifiers, something that you do have to look up on is during this draft phase and picking out an advantage composition, making sure that you're able to counter the other team. That's something that's so important, and that's something I feel that not many teams have been able to get a good grasp of.
You know, I have to admit, Team Secret, you said you thought they were a bit favored. I definitely thought they were favored coming in, but I don't know if I expected it to be this heavily. Vedius, what were your thoughts? Is there any moment where Snow Tsunami looked like they had the capability to come back into this series?
Game 2, to me, is where they really demonstrated that the team was definitely worthy of the spot to make it into the finals. But to give credit to Snow Tsunami, they were just against the powerhouse that is Team Secret, because I don't think that they were a bad team. I just think Team Secret played phenomenally well. And I think against or coming into the next qualifier, they will still put on a dominant performance and will still be one of the teams making it into the top 8 or even the top 4 once more. And I think that the Snow organization as a whole can be very proud of their achievements from what they've made during this first qualifier for winter season.
I mean, having 2 teams in the semifinals is certainly an achievement that they can be proud of. I absolutely agree with you. We're going to be moving on to NA now, guys. EU is all over until the 13th of February when we're back for the second qualifier. Thank you very much for sticking with us through it. Myself, Action Jackson, and Vedius have really enjoyed bringing it to you. But Don John, Blueberries, Rome, they're going to be with you for the NA side of things, along with the guys from NA, the casters over there, Forecourt Jester and Tasty Bacon coming back and joining you. Team Secret, they're your champions.
All right, thank you very much. Big congratulations to Team Secret as we see it here. The winners, Rebel Tiger, 3rd place. Congratulations, advancing against Snow Avalanche and Team Secret versus Snow Tsunami. Both Snow teams did not succeed this final match day. So big stuff here coming up. And great stuff for Team Secret. What a debut after acquiring Mediapixel Esport. They directly are winning the first winter qualifier, securing $2,500 just for winning this qualifier. So that is just immense.
Yes, and as Action Jackson was wrapping it up already, this is the end for Europe until the 13th of February. That is when the second qualifier with a round of 64 is going to kick off. But don't go anywhere, because as you also mentioned, we're going to jump into the first North American matchup, Nemesis Hydra versus Kinetic, in just a second. We will grab Forecourt Jester and Tasty Bacon, who will be the casters for you guys tonight, and we will not let Rome go, because he will still stick with us and analyze forward through the final matches in the North American region as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the European side. If you want to attend the live finals, if you want to play in the second qualifier, either go for exclamation mark tickets or for exclamation mark apply in the chat, and you will get those links. They will direct you to the right place. And until we start North America, you will probably just see 1 or 2 trailers, so approximately 2 to 5 minutes, and we will be back with the first matchup, prepping the party, hyping the third place match between Nemesis Hydra and Kinetic, and afterwards we're going to see Alliance versus Gangster Series.
What a final match. Stay tuned and stay with us.